Hello gamers from around the world, this is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, and I would like to welcome you to today's episode of the World of Gaming, your number one podcast where we discuss everything that the world of gaming has to offer, new games, new rumors, technology, and whatever is related to gaming. And as every week we do that with an awesome community. So Dutch, before I welcome you, this time I'm gonna welcome the community first, because you guys are awesome and you guys are the reason we do this show each and every week with a lot of passion. So welcome to you guys wherever you listen, either here on YouTube, on Spotify, and Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, wherever you listen. Welcome. And Dutch, big welcome to you too. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing awesome. Of course, working hard in the background on a showcase.
Oh yeah.
Podcasting.
How is that coming together, man?
Yeah, the show's coming together very well. Well. I'm starting to get some trailers through, new trailers. Getting other trailers together. Waiting on developers coming back with new stuff. So it's coming along well. Yes, it's coming along well. All assets and things are already generated.
Sweet.
So it's a case of as soon as I've got things, I can literally just put it all in, get it all set up, refine it, and then hit that button, render it out, and get ready for the showcase.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Still super excited. You know what, Dutch? Before we start the show properly, we're just gonna let your awesome trailer run one more time here on the World of Gaming. So guys, buckle up, set your player to 1440p and 60 FPS to just see the beautiful work that Dutch has done to put together the trailer for the Indie Community Showcase 2023, coming in April, end of April. Was it?
Yes, 22nd.
22nd. Thank you. So let's hit the roll button.
Living every day in your head for free. You can tap away, but I will not hear you scream. You can break your keys, spread your toxicity, your world outside reality. In your room, a little hideaway, but you let it brew. Enough to go insane, living in the dark hasn't treated you well. You're building your own prison cell. Hey, wait, don't waste it on me. Spy, lies telling you, don't waste it on me. Did I brush you off? Is it your lack of friends? We never met, even if you pretend. Am I in your debt? I don't know you nothing. Don't say something you'll regret. Hey, wait, don't waste it on me. Spy, lies telling you, don't waste it on me. Hate, rage, don't waste it on me. Spite, lies telling you, don't waste it on me. Rage, don't waste it on me. Spite, lies telling you, don't waste it. I'm telling you, don't waste it. Lies telling you, don't waste it on me.
And that's it. That was the trailer, guys. I don't know about you in the chat. Let us know. Are you as excited as I am. I know Dutch is excited, but in this case, I definitely want to hear from the community because, man, that trailer already gives me goosebumps, especially since you put in Hollow Knight Silk Song. Yeah, one of my most anticipated indies of the year, obviously. So, yeah, man, awesome stuff. Cannot wait for April. But Dutch, with that, let us talk about the games we play. So, Dutch, and of course, everyone in the chat, let us know, what are you guys playing lately? Dutch, tell us, what has kept you busy?
Yeah, so aside from playing Diablo, of course, on the final beta weekend before its release, I've also been playing a little bit of Sea of Thieves, of course, on Tuesday. And then the Forza Horizon Rally DLC dropped, and they also started a brand new event, a nighttime event, which also included an additional 4 cars. Awesome nighttime things with neons and things like that all over the place. So yeah, I've been playing the Forza Horizon Rally DLC, and it is fantastic.
Awesome,
it's exactly
man.
what I wanted. I'm a huge for motorsport, whereas the likes of Irwin and things like that, they love Formula One. Rally and Rallycross have been my most favorite motorsports, bar none. I've been to watch rallies live. There's a lot of rally events in the UK and in Scotland, as everybody knows, of course, with famous drivers like Colin McRae, etc. So it's always been a big sport here, rally, and it's so fun to watch. It's very brutal. It's very dangerous. It's so quick, the way they kind of maneuver in between very short and thin areas to drive on. Where they can literally flip or crash into a tree at any time, or take out a pedestrian, or it's such a dangerous sport in terms of drive and being able to kind of. The last time they had Rally DLC was way back on Forza Horizon
First one? Yeah, right.
Yeah, and it was such a much smaller experience. It was literally just rally races, and there wasn't any open world segment to it. It was just, here's some races and that's it. And it felt fast and it felt quick, and it felt like the essence of rally, but it had nothing else about it. With this, you've got everything. You've got all of the races. You've got factions. So you've got factions to race for. You've got another 10 additional cars on top of the 4 that they released with the event update. So 14 new cars. Most of them brand new to the Forza franchise that haven't been in there before. Loads of new body kits. They've got anti-lag for turbos. They've got new big off-roading tires for Jeeps and giant 4x4s. Loads of new content. A brand new radio station added to it. It's just phenomenal.
Absolutely. Let me ask you something. I haven't had the chance to play it yet, so do tell me. They said they have like new environmental destruction and everything, and deformation of the terrain. Is it actually noticeable whilst playing, or?
It is, yeah. It's a bit different. So we're used to destruction anyway, but they've kind of taken it a step further. And obviously, when we go through the forests in the regular Horizon map, a lot of the trees that you hit, you'll literally just stop dead and it'll just go down. They've altered it now, so the forests that are in the Forza Horizon Rally Adventure are destructible. So the big trees go down now. They are fully destructible large trees, as opposed to when you crash into one of the rainforests in the big Mexico map.
Bam!
Boom. That's it. You stop dead in your track. So yeah, the whole thing is entirely destructible. So it's great to be able to just mosh through that. And it's really strange at first, actually, because you're used to kind of trying to avoid trees, so you don't stop in your ways.
Yeah.
But you can kind of just plow through them all now. So yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
That's
it
cool,
runs
man.
butter smooth. There's not been any glitches, any performance problems.
Nice.
I've played it on both the Series S and the Series X. And yeah, it's brilliant. Brilliant. It's everything I hoped for. Again, I think some people again would be hoping for more. I understand some people that might not be. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's good," but I hoped it would be something different because this is exactly what I said about the Hot Wheels event. And they loved that, and people wanted more of that, so they got that, and they were really happy with that. And we were kind of sitting there going, "Yeah, it's cool. It's a really nice expansion, but we want something different."
Yeah.
And now I've got what I wanted.
That's cool,
I'm like,
man.
yeah, it's Rally. I love it. But I understand on the flip side why some people would be like, but I still want something new. And we can hope for the next one, the next Forza, that they do go completely outside the box and be creative and try and come up with a different kind of idea next. I can imagine that'd be quite hard to come up with a brand new idea for an expansion that isn't the drift place that we had, because we had a kind of a drift one, which was Fortune Island. We had Lego, we had Hot Wheels, we've got Rally.
You know what they need to do? They need to go different vehicles, like motorcycles, planes, boats, I don't know, something like that. That would really be something vastly different we haven't had before.
The thing. In the Forza Horizon Rally map, they have a motorbike track, but they don't have motorbikes in it.
Ooh, interesting. I mean, they did have the motorcycles in the main game when you race them, but yeah. Let me briefly catch up on some of the first super chats that already came in. The first one of the show actually came in during the intro, man. Phantosir sends in a super chat for being a channel member for 8 months. Man, thank you so much for the support. He says, good evening to all you wonderful gamers. Really enjoying the Forza Horizon 5 Rally Adventure and new 4K 140 Hertz IPS monitor, despite being knocked out with COVID. Man, first of all, I'm sorry to hear you have COVID, and I hope you feel better soon. And a 4K monitor sounds fantastic, especially if it has a high free refresh rate. Let me know which brand you have, man, which monitor you actually got, and which size. That's cool, and I'm glad you enjoy the Forza Horizon. I need to play it, man. I've downloaded it. Wanted to start after your podcast yesterday, but then it was late and I went to bed, and I only got about an hour to game in today, and I decided to play another game. I will get to that in a second, but let me catch up on the super chats. Because Tron TJ sends in a generous $5. Thank you, man. And he asks a great question, Dutch. Let's ask this. Are there any 2022 and 2023 cars yet?
Yes. Yeah, there are. There's loads of 2022, 2023 and beyond. There's a few cars that aren't officially out. There's a few cars that are what do you call it? Concept cars. There's concept rally cars in there now. There's concept hybrid cars, concept electric cars. There's a lot of concept cars that they've got in it now. And there's a few different things. Like they've got one of the new ones that I unlocked. One of the initial ones that you unlock on the rally one is an electric Hummer 4x4. And it's kind of futuristic. It's smooth. It's not like your standard Hummer, and you know what it is. The Hummer is just a block that's used by military. This isn't that at all. It's more like a Dakar rally kind of 4x4, but it's 100% electric. And they've got a load of them kind of cars in there. It's awesome. There's a lot of them.
Good stuff there. So anything else you've been playing, man, outside of Forza?
Forza, Sea of Thieves, Diablo.
Diablo.
Yes. And I started again following our conversation last week, and I think we had it on this show actually, when you mentioned you'd started playing Outer Worlds again. I did the same. I went back, started playing Outer Worlds, started a new game on Outer Worlds, and I'm being a bit evil this time.
Awesome. I played as a nice guy for the when I did my first playthrough as well, and this time I thought, okay, I want to be the bad guy, but then just can't. You know, I don't know. I like what's
I
her
have
name,
done one
Pavani,
nice- I've done one nice thing. I've done one nice thing, and that was I still rerouted the power to the botanical
okay,
quadrant.
okay.
But
So
that's
at
as
least
far
you
as it's
did.
going to go. After that, I'm evil.
It's like with Mass Effect. Every time I play Mass Effect, I tell myself, okay, I need to see like how the story turns out if you do all evil choices and being an asshole through and through. And I never can do it. My Shepard is always a nice guy. I don't know. But awesome, man. Outer Worlds, it just looks and runs so good right now, right? On the Series X with the next gen patch and everything. It's fantastic. Love that game. So let us see what have people in the chat been playing. Dave Ramos, Super Mario Brothers via his retro arc on the Series X and Outer Worlds. Oh, another Outer Worlds player. Awesome. Shout out to you, Dave. What else have people been playing? See, Mr. Joanna Dark. He's playing The Last of Us 2 and Resident Evil 4 again. That's pretty cool. Gonna talk about that in a second. Then we have Jacob Novik, who bought, by the way, pre-ordered the Diablo bundle with the Series X in it, which is awesome, man. So what else? Mighty Doom, Jacob Novik plays that. Good stuff there. Good stuff there in the chat, man. So I played, of course, not much over the weekend because I was out of the country for 3 days. Went to Austria with a couple of friends, and it was fan-freaking-tastic. I told you that yesterday already. Lots of beer, sauna, and it was just such a blast. 12 guys in a cabin in Austria. We had a fantastic time, man. So I came home Sunday evening, and I got in like 2 hours of Diablo or so for the playing the Necromancer, and man, does that character feel overpowered. So I definitely want to know in chat, everyone, people, how did you like Diablo? Now, after the open beta, everyone had the chance to play it, and I definitely want to hear your thoughts. How did you like Diablo? What did you make of the Necromancer and the Druid that were unlocked this weekend?
Yeah, so I found the Necromancer, of course, just like the Sorcerer, is OP. In a fun way, though. Not in a OP, oh god, this is boring because I'm that thing. It actually, you're kind of giddy with how OP it is. And I think we're going to have a discussion on that because we've kind of got a theory behind it based on Diablo 3. But the one that I thought was kind of meh was the Druid. The Druid was cool. But it kind of transforming into a bear or transforming into a wolf, you kind of felt a little bit like, in comparison to everybody else who has like really cool abilities and like zap people from miles away and like chain lightning and things like I just turn into a bear, like and slash people. Like, okay. Like everyone else is like doing like serious damage. I feel like I'm just like going over and tickling things. I didn't really get along that well with the Druid, to be honest. You never know. I think as it stands, the Druid's my least favorite of all of them. I'd probably still put Sorcerer as number 1, Necromancer as number 2,
and then the Rogue
number 3, then Barbarian, then Druid.
I haven't played the Druid. There was just not enough time. Honestly, I was a little tired and still a little hungover at Sunday evening. So, yeah, I haven't had a chance to play the Druid yet, but I played all the other 4 characters, and I would agree with that order. Sorcerer still is awesome, although the Necromancer also felt pretty mighty, and the Rogue was actually also a lot of fun. I don't know about the barbarian yet. Didn't feel as strong as the other characters, a little underpowered. However, and I think I told you that the other day, in Diablo, we always had the fact that some characters felt a little OP during a certain period in the game. So we had that in Diablo 3 as well, where at the beginning, in the first 1 or 2 acts, certain characters felt really OP, and others, like the sorcerer, for instance, felt in the first 2 acts of Diablo 3 not as powerful. And then all of a sudden, in when you hit come to Act 4, it feels so OP. So we don't know about the barbarian, how the barbarian will feel in Act 2, 3, 4. But as of right now, was a little underwhelmed with barbarian. But I agree, sorcerer is probably the character I will go for first in Diablo. But let's not kid ourselves; we're gonna level them all to the max. So
Yeah.
but then
I've already worked out my starter one anyway. So my first playthrough is definitely going to be with the sorcerer, 100%.
awesome.
The next one would be necromancer after that.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna do the same. And then
And I
usually
think apart from I know that rogue is I ranked it as the 3rd top, but I would probably play barbarian after necromancer to mix it up a bit, because that would be like 3 ranged in a row, and it would kind of feel a bit. I think I'd get bored if I played 3 ranged characters back to back to back. So I'd probably mix it up a bit and shove in a barbarian after playing necromancer, and then play rogue.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so Dave Ramos is also playing the necromancer first. Mr. Joy in the Dark as well. I think that's a great choice. I do worry though that after this open beta, we will see, like in the beginning, when the game comes out, only sorcerers and necromancers on the map, man. I have not seen anyone suggest anything other than either necromancer or sorcerer. The Fifth Horseman says his order will be sorcerer, barbarian, druid, necro, and then rogue. That's also good. Really good choice there. Little surprised he puts the necromancer at almost the tail end. So, but hey, that's cool. I do hope for some diversity in Diablo. So, yeah, man, I really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait. Oh, Doom Reaper is gonna make a barbarian first in the chat. Sweet.
So we've had this discussion, haven't we? On the midweek mix-up show yesterday. We discussed our theories on some of these characters in the beta, and I'd like you to kind of dive into it, because I think you might be right in how we feel from the beta, that some of these characters are OP right now, but might not necessarily be later down
at
the
launch.
line.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So, yeah, man.
I think
June can't come fast enough.
Into it. Yeah, I think the further we go into the full game, it could be that a lot of these characters balance out. So the ones that we think are really weak right now, like the barbarian in comparison to the sorcerer and the necromancer, later down the line, we think potentially the closer you get level 100 might be one of the more powerful or most powerful to play
characters.
with.
Yeah.
Whereas
it deends on how they design the loot in the end game. That it really depends on how the Paragon system is gonna work this time. Yeah, in the end game. So yeah, man. I still wonder about the end game since we talk about it. I said that on your show, man. Can you remember a live service game that did it right at launch? So what I mean is, come out, have enough end game content so that people are not gonna complain about it. Like every live service game I can think of, it's always the same. It comes out, people, no matter how long it will take you to get to the end game. Diablo, 100 hours in, and then there's not enough content, and people will start to complain. So I wonder how they will do it, and if there is really enough to keep people happy, and if they have a continuous stream of new content. So Dustin Lambert in the chat says people will complain regardless. So, yeah, that's.
I think
what
you know what it is. And of course, today we had this conversation yesterday on ours regarding this potential limited edition, special edition Diablo thing, and of course, the Xbox Wire post today.
Yeah,
it is just a bundle. Unfortunately,
it's not a limited
edition console.
Yeah,
but I think it could be that Diablo is opened up to a whole host of new players. And when we talk about the actual, if we're even excluding the end game content for brand new players, this is still a minimum 50-hour game.
At least, yeah.
Minimum. The content that you'll be able to get out of this game and the replayability of just the base game is going to provide hundreds of hours of content. That's before end game. The issue people will have is people like myself and Boxy and a few others who have played all of the Diablos.
Yeah.
And we want to know what the end game is like. And then essentially the hardcore fans or the big fans of the series really want to know what that is and whether or not it provides that longevity for the remainder of its time, of its lifespan. For new people to it, there's going to be a whole host of content that you'll probably never get through. Because
yeah, indeed. Yeah. And that's the thing about the previous Diablo games. They had like end game content for everyone. Like, let's take Diablo 3 as an example. The most recent one. They had end game content for gamers who played solo. They had end game content that was more designed for people that party up. There was something for everyone. But of course, that game grew over the years, and it wasn't like that when it came out. But then it came out like 13 years ago or so. Yeah, so that was a different time, of course. However, I do have the feeling they will get it right, because what I have played, what I have seen is just fantastic. Gameplay feels on point. The loot is fantastic. You have this addictive loot, repetitive dungeon looting thing that just hooks you. You have enough reward to tell yourself, oh, okay, awesome. That was worth it. That was worth the distraction to go into a dungeon for 20 minutes and do it. And that's what a game needs. This hook to actually reward you. The RPG system itself, the mechanic of leveling up your skills, combining certain skills together properly, combining them with the proper loot, with the proper gem system, and everything gives you enough to get that feeling that when you do it right, you can break the system and become really OP. And that's really what a RPG needs to do, because that's what I always try to do. You know, doesn't matter the RPG I play, I always try to find out how to break the RPG system to feel OP. And it has enough of that. The atmosphere captures Diablo 2, which is awesome. We are going away from this colorful art style, the World of Warcraft inspired art style that we had in Diablo 3. So we leave that behind. We have this shared open world system, which was fantastic, man. I loved it. It felt very natural to just run around, and then there's a world event going on or something. You know, you run into a couple of random players, fight a bunch of enemies with them, and then everyone moves on. It works fantastic. So, man, I'm super hyped. I'm super hyped for the game. And I cannot wait. And I also started another game, Dutch.
Oh.
This week, but let me briefly shout out John TJ and thank him for the $5 super chat. He says, Yeah, I checked. No new Lamborghini, no new Bugatti, no new Ferrari. The DLC is okay.
It is a rally DLC, TJ. It's a rally cars.
But he's got one
we all want
point.
new
They
Lambos
promised
and
us
things
like
that.
tons of cars, car packs when you buy the super golden super update, duper update, you know. And I also had the feeling that, granted, I haven't played it in a while. It's at
Oh,
least
there's a lot of cars then you haven't downloaded.
yeah, probably.
There's a lot.
But
But
when the
TJ, I will say I was going to say to TJ onto that. There are four new cars, including the new supercar that is dropping on Friday, which is part of a separate event linked to this DLC. So there's 10 new rally / off-road cars,
sweet,
4 new sports / supercars that are going in on Friday for the launch of the new seasonal event.
nice. There you go. So good stuff, man. You know what I started playing, and I put the gameplay on screen now, and that is Resident Evil 4, the remake. You know, my favorite Resident Evil in the series. I don't know about you, but I do always say that Resident Evil 4 just nails it. Yeah, and I haven't played it in a long time. I had, of course, multiple playthroughs on my GameCube, and but I haven't played it in a while. And yeah, this remake, I was a little on the fence whether to get it or not, because yeah, I have played it before, and it's just a remake, just a remake, but. Yeah, so I was like, okay, I can also wait for sale, and I think that's where you are, man, right? But then I gave in, and I'm glad I did, because it is really, really good from start to finish. I haven't finished yet, but you know, it looks great. I mean, look at this, yeah? If you watch on YouTube, make sure to set your player to 1440p to really see how beautiful this game actually looks. You can tell some performance things, but with VRR, they are definitely not noticeable. It looks really good. It plays really good. The atmosphere is just, you know, just so spot on. It's a little bit more stressful than like your Resident Evil 1, 2, 3. But it's just stressful enough to not have the like a little bit more overwhelming moment we had in Resident Evil 8 or so. And yeah, man, the sound design is exceptional. Really, really good. Just, I don't know what else to say, man. I don't know what else to say.
I mean, the one thing that I'm using as justification for me to not go out and try and get this game or get this game is I've got a lot of work to do this month for a particular showcase. So I'm like, I'm not going to get anything else that's going to distract me. Forza's my new toy. I've got Ghostwire Tokyo coming in Game Pass next week. So those are my new things.
And you started Outer World, man. And then you start Outer World. Come on. Outer World.
Yeah. So nothing new. I'm not going to kind of distract myself playing a game I've played before. Yes, it's granted it's new, but it's expenses and things like that. And I can put whatever additionals I have towards things like giveaways for the Community Indie Showcase. Because, of course, for those who watched the previous ones, throughout the show, we drop loads of codes for different indie games.
Yeah.
Some that have been shown in the showcase, some that haven't, some that are kind of just launching. We've had some awesome developers provide keys as well that kind of take part. So, yeah, my money, instead of going into buying games this month, is going into
giving them away.
Showcase.
Which is awesome, man. Which is awesome. Yeah. So definitely Resident Evil gets a recommendation from my side. And that's actually the reason why I haven't started Forza yet. So when I booted up my Xbox earlier today, after finishing work, I was like, okay, do I start Forza or do I go back to this one? And honestly, the atmosphere is just so they get it right. They just get it right. So I had to play this. Um,
I mean,
But
it is. Resident Evil 4 is my favorite Resident Evil out of all of them, by a long shot. It's the one I've got the fondest memories of. I actually enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the gameplay of Resident Evil 4. And I never really clicked with the originals. I own all of them, but primarily that's because I game share with somebody who's a huge Resident Evil fan. So
Yeah.
he wanted all of the previous remakes and things like that. And even he's not in a massive rush to play this one. So so just waiting. Yeah, just waiting on it. But we've played it to death. We played it on the GameCube and
Yeah.
when it first came out and loved it. So yeah, the thing is, of course, is I know what I'm getting. I know how good it looks. I know how great it is. So I don't mind waiting. I don't mind waiting.
And in the meantime, you will see a lot of footage here on the World of Gaming over the next 2 weeks or so. So you're good.
Yeah.
You're covered. And I think Thanos in the chat is trolling because he says Resident Evil 6 is his favorite. You know what, Dutch? What I read today. So Diablo, Resident Evil 4 is the second best-selling Resident Evil game ever. So it sold 3 million copies in the first 2 days. And the only Resident Evil who beat this record was Resident Evil 6. Believe it or not. It's crazy, man. Crazy. But man, let's start with the news of the week. Alrighty. Thanos says he's not trolling. So okay, good. I mean, taste is different.
There's not every game is for everybody, but there is a game for everybody. That's all. It's the best saying there is.
There is. There's really nothing you can say about that, man. There's really nothing you can say. So yeah, man. Today we're gonna talk about a lot of topics. So we're gonna get into that. We will talk, of course, about some accusations that a couple of congressmen have made towards Sony. We will talk about E3 and what the future might hold. But we will also talk about game announcements, game leaks, game rumors. But first, we need to talk about some sales numbers. Because today, Dutch, a report from Bloomberg came out and said that the PlayStation VR 2 only sold around 270,000 units. Doesn't sound much. And of course, that throws up the question, did Xbox take the right decision to not invest in VR? That's the first question I want to ask you. And the second is, why do you think that is that we see so low numbers? I do have a lot of thoughts on this, but I first want to, of course, hear your thoughts, man.
You know what it is. We said this before it launched. We said the price is going to be an issue.
Yes,
Sony's
we did.
Never pay attention.
Yeah.
For some reason, Sony are just not paying attention to the worldwide economic problems. And they're launching a very high-priced, extremely niche product in a very tough time.
Yeah.
The only thing they can do to combat this is drop the price. That is literally the only way they're going to shift units is to drop the price, and dramatically. Like 50 off the price isn't going to change anything. It's going to have to be minimum of 100 difference, minimum, to make a dent.
Even more so. If they drop it, they would still be at around 500, depending, of course, where you live. But I think
completely, like, if a lot of governments, specifically in the UK, for instance, right now, any government support for the energy costs is ending next month. So the end of this month is the last the government are providing payments. And then next month, everyone goes on to just paying ridiculously high bills with no support. And that goes for the same for businesses. That goes for the same for food costs and water costs and everything in terms of costs are going up over the next month or so. And this is what it has been this year. It's just a consistent rise of prices on everything.
Yeah.
But buying technology, unless you're like super comfortable or have the overheads to do so, you like things like spending 600 on a VR headset is absolutely out of the question when the console itself is cheaper.
Yeah.
Like, why would you do
what
it
would
if
be
you
a
don't have the
price
console
point?
already?
What would be a price point for you where you say
I've said it has to be for me. Personally, for me, I wouldn't buy a VR headset for more than 400. I wouldn't. I just couldn't justify it, regardless of how good it is. I wouldn't do it. There isn't enough right now, including on specifically on PSVR 2. They don't have backwards compatibility to the extent that it should. So not all games are compatible. The amount of games that they've got on there don't justify the price tag as it stands yet. They haven't released a big enough catalog for it yet.
Yeah.
There isn't enough experiences, at least with the likes of Quest and other PC-based ones. And this is another issue PSVR has. But they have additional marketplaces by other creators that'll create loads of different experiences and 3D camera things, pre-recordings. You can watch 3D events, like full 360 events.
Additional use
cases. Loads of different experiences and use cases. PSVR has just gaming. And maybe watch like virtual dashboard type thing on there.
You can also watch TVs. But I think, and Mr. Joanna Dark is in the chat. Shout out to you, man. I know you have one. Correct me if I'm wrong. Not every movie app is supported on PSVR 2. I think I read something like that, but don't quote me on this. I'm posing this as a question, but
even still, agree. When you watch a film, you really want to be sitting there for 2 hours with something glued to your head when you've got a big TV already there. What's the point? Like, are you really going to do that? Honestly, you do it maybe once to go, oh, I did it. I've watched a film on my head. And then the novelty wears off. And that's the thing with VR. For some people, they love the experience. And I can understand sim racers that have a big sim rig and they love GT7. They're gonna be using that all the time for GT7 and having a full immersive racing experience with a big sim racing rig and everything to go with it. And I know Erwin would be one of them. He would I know he would invest in a VR headset to go along with GT7 to be able to have that full experience. He's got a big proper sim racing rig, an expensive one at that, like 1,500 quid rig. So to him, I can understand that investment, but for the casual gamers, there's no justification for it. And that's what's proved in the sales. 250,000 units worldwide is nothing. That is insignificant.
Really not much. 270,000.
You have to have. This is the issue from last time. And we mentioned this with the PlayStation 4, which is why over its lifetime, they only did like 2-3 million units or something like that at the PlayStation VR 1. Because you have to own the PlayStation 4 in order to play the games on PSVR. And you have to own a PlayStation 5 in order to use PSVR 2.
Yeah.
And there still isn't enough of a large market on PlayStation. It's, 30 million units, great. But you've only sold 250,000 units of PSVR 2 to 30 million people. Even if you doubled that, it's a million out of 60 million.
That's the thing. I mean, you already mentioned the high price, and it's not just because of inflation and everything becoming super expensive. Like, we have the highest energy prices in the world right now in Germany, so it's pretty insane. But the thing is, VR is still niche. To the mass market, VR is a niche market. So if you want to become that VR becomes a thing in that general consumer market, you have to entice people to get it. And you don't do that with a price tag of $600. If you cannot convince the core gamers, us, Yeah, I have everything. I have a PC, I have a Switch, I have an Xbox, I have a PlayStation, I have everything. I'm a gaming enthusiast. I do mean it when I say I'm the video game enthusiast from Germany. If you can't convince me to invest $600, how will you do that to the mass market? How will you do that to the consumer market? So, if
And
you want,
it's about not having, and this is the issue with it, because a lot of people, and this is the same thing that happened with PSVR 1. A lot of these casuals went out, bought a PSVR 1, used it a few times. It sat gathering dust. They sold it on to tech shops and game shops.
Yeah.
They sold it, got some money for it. They are never going to return and buy a PSVR 2 ever, because they know exactly the same as what happened last time. They'll use it for a couple of days, they'll play it a couple of times, and then it'll sit gathering dust, and they'll sell it again.
Yeah.
So those customers that you had the first time around that sold their units because they never used it will never buy another new unit. So you've already lost customers the first time around because they realized it was a novelty. Oh, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool. A couple of months down the line, you realize you never use it. You spent £400 or £500 on it, and it's just doing nothing. So they just sell it.
Yep.
And unlike a console, which is entirely
I was
different,
one of them. I sold my PSVR 1.
Yeah.
Just
It's unlike, like I say, with the PSVR. With the PSVR,
yeah.
it's something that you're not required in order to play games. Whereas with a regular PlayStation or an Xbox, like an actual just regular unit, there's always going to be some games you can play. There is no novelty to it. The casuals will get their annual FIFAs, they'll get their annual Call of Duties, they'll get their annual the Fortnite fix. Like these casual games, that's what the casuals get. So the novelty runs out relatively quickly for the casual. At first, it's cool. Your friends will play it for a bit. Every time a friend comes around, you'll go, "Oh, do you want to try this?"
Yeah.
And once it's done, it's done. Then
that's the thing. That's the thing. Yeah. I do want to play Horizon in VR. I have no doubt that it's probably a fun experience. But what comes after that? That's the next thing. If you want to establish technology that is already niche, again, you have to entice people to invest into it. You do that by a consumer-friendly price point, not more than $400. And then you have to have a steady stream of known games and known IPs coming. You need to have your Star Wars experience, or I don't know, your Last of Us experience, or someone in chat mentioned Killzone, or something that is known to PlayStation players. Something, and I know that these games would probably not do well in the beginning because, of course, the install base is low. But that's how you grow it, and I feel like that's a missed opportunity right there from PlayStation. And honestly, I do appreciate them trying to establish VR in the mass consumer market, but not like this. Too expensive, to not enough games, and so we will see, man. We will see where this will go. We will definitely keep an eye on it and see if they can drop the price. But right now, Sony, they do different tactics these days. So, we shall see, man. We shall see. But speaking of sales numbers, let's also applaud them for having a record-breaking month for the base console. In February, they sold, according to Matt Piscatella, who is executive director from the at Circana, formerly the NPD Group. He confirmed that they had reached an all-time high for any PlayStation system in the month of February. So the base console, the PlayStation console itself, apparently sells really well, man. So, yeah.
No doubt the base units will all absolutely sell. And like, to be fair, I saw the game store near me relatively recently, and a lot of people are still picking up even second hand and used, but a lot of people are still picking up PlayStation 4s. A lot of people are going out and getting second-hand PlayStation 5s and picking them up now, or regular PlayStation 5s, and there's a lot of them available. There's a lot of them available in store now. There's a lot of second-hand and pre-owned ones available now. There's no shortage of units available in the wild now, so there's absolutely no doubt that the numbers are going to continue to grow for both. I think Xbox is going to see greater numbers starting to come through with their releases kind of over the next couple of months. So yeah, I think thankfully at this point we can say the console shortage is now dead. It's over. Especially in the UK, there was literally a point where you couldn't even think the word PlayStation because it didn't exist. It wasn't there to buy. As soon as it was available in store, it was gone. There was getting like 1 unit at a time and things like that. But now you can go into any store really and just pick one up, pick one off the shelf, and you're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what they really did well. I don't know about how is it in the UK right now with availability of the Series X? In Germany, it's still hard to get, man.
All consoles in the UK, or you can just go in and pick them up.
Oh, nice. Good.
Yep.
That's good. That's good. Series S, of course, you can get here in Germany easily. Series X, still hard to get, man. Still hard to get.
I think it's because a lot of people still underestimate the Series S. They really do. And for those who have got a PlayStation 5, and they're not too bothered about spending another $500 on a Series X, but they want to have another machine or potentially think about having another machine to pick up to play Xbox games and don't have a powerful PC. The Series S is a perfect companion console.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect.
Absolutely.
I would recommend any PlayStation player who wants to try out some of these brand new games, invest in the little Series S. It won't let you down.
If they bring out the bangers, the AAA blockbusters we all want, like your likes of Starfield and Hellblade and Fable and The Avowed, I feel the Series S will get a second wind. It's gonna do for exactly that reason. Yeah, people that have invested in, I don't know, the Nintendo or the PlayStation will get the Series S as the second console, and rightfully so. I've recommended to so many friends of mine, honestly, the Series S, because I have these friends that usually play PlayStation, the likes of FIFA, sometimes a little Call of Duty or a Gran Turismo, but that's about it. The casuals. And when the PS5 came out, it was nowhere to be found, of course, and everyone was asking me, "Oh, do you know a trick?" Because they all know, okay, I enjoy the hobby. And I told them, just get a Series S, man. It's super cheap, more than enough for your demands. Yeah, you play like 2 games a year, so just get that. Get it with Game Pass. And if you're taking a gaming break over the summer, you just cancel the subscription and get it again when you have the need. And they all thanked me for it because it is a fantastic console. Honestly, the mass market does really not care that much about resolution. They just want to play games, man. Occasionally, they don't want to have the hustle like on PC to go get the right drivers, get the right hardware, get everything right. No, they just want to plug and play, start the system, and play some games. And for that, the Series S is a fantastic value at its price point, man. And it will be Xbox hidden or secret weapon when they finally have these games. Again, starting hopefully this year with your likes of Starfield and whatnot, and hopefully Hellblade, man. I still hope for Hellblade. So let us talk about some games, man. Some rumors, some announcements, some things. And before we get into the more juicy, the more spicy topics of today's show, but first let me catch up on the super chats. Dave Ramos sends in $5. Thank you, man, for the support. He says, I have a Series X. I'm considering the Switch as my second console because it's only $300. With PlayStation made a $300 PS5 Mini to play great game. Wish PlayStation made a $300 PS5 Mini to play great games. Yeah. Dave and Dutch, I have thought about this, something similar. I was wondering if Sony might introduce with the mid-gen refresh console also a second-tier console, a low-priced tier console after seeing the success of the Series S, and we all know that it is a success because for the most part we have heard dominating sales and so on. So
See, I don't think, and this is the thing, I am not sure that PlayStation are, at this point, are capable of making a cheaper unit that will have, and I don't think they would do that for their developers, is create another SKU that's lower powered than their current, that only outputs 1080p maximum 2K. I just don't see PlayStation doing that. I don't think they have the need or want to do that. They want to sell the higher priced console, and they don't want to take away from that. I don't think they have a need for it as much. I would understand. Yeah, I absolutely believe it, and this is what a lot of people don't understand. Why the Series S definitely won't hold back is there's a lot of overheads on the Series S that aren't required. Such as mainly you're not looking at native resolutions of 4K ever. There's never going to be a point, apart from some indie games that do native 8K 120 frames or something silly. They're outliers, and they're only indies like pixel games, etc.
Yeah.
But actual AAA games, there is absolutely zero requirement. And for those who have desktop gaming, etc., you'll already know it because you use DLSS all the time, or you use FSR if you're AMD. You know that you never generate anything in a native resolution ever, because you use these upscaling methods in order to get a more crisp image, but get the
more
lower
stable,
performance.
Better performance, more frames. Yeah.
So that's why PC players never use native, because it's just far too costly on the overheads.
Yeah.
Even if you've got to, like, it's the 4090 players and things like that are going to show off and say, look at this Forza running native 8K 60 frames or 90 frames or whatever it is. And that's fine, but that's a really limited number of people, like a very finite number of people that are doing that. The vast majority of PC gamers are using upscaling methods to get 4K.
Absolutely.
If they use 4K at all. The vast majority are doing 2K 1080p, and they're just concentrating on big frames. And that's all the console needs to do. So if the little man, which it does, can run games at 1080p 60 or 1080p 120, which it does on a big occasion. There's a lot of games running 120 frames on the Series S. If you can get a unit that's doing that, that's all you need to concentrate on. Don't worry about 4K. Don't worry about anything else. The fidelity is going to be good enough. As long as the performance is there in the games, that's all that matters. Technically, nothing's going to get held back in that console because the overheads get reduced significantly anyway. And you can still, even then, you can still use the FSR or upscaling methods in order to go from 720 to 1080 native. It's not going to look like the actual difference in image quality between 720 and 1080 native is going to be absolutely minimal. You'll never notice it, and the performance differences are going to be vast. And we're talking about a console here that is 4 times more powerful than the base Xbox One, and that was doing 900p games. It's also 2 times, well, it is actually as powerful, but a better performing unit because it's the next generation architecture than the One X.
Yeah.
So, of course, it's got Gen 2 architecture. It's got all the bonuses that come with the Series X, but in a smaller package. And it comes with the same amount of flops that the One X does.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that, and they think, oh, look, it's the same flops. It's the same thing. It really isn't, because it's an entirely different performance architecture. The Zen 2 is leaps and bounds above what we had in the One X. And you can tell that just simply from turning the console on, how much snappier the Series S is in comparison to a One X.
Yep.
Even now, if you turn a One X on in
hard to
comparison
go
the
back
Series S,
if you are used to the fast and
impossible.
snappy series. Doesn't matter SRX dashboard. It's really hard. No, man, I fully totally agree with you. This is what we will see. I think as the big thing for the mid-gen refresh consoles.
Yeah.
I in case anyone is still wondering, I have zero doubt that they will come. And of course, we will have them. And people always ask, "Oh, what's the big thing?" Because last generation, it was, of course, 4K that got introduced with the enhanced consoles. So what's it gonna be this time? And I do think that these upscaling methods, whether they are hardware supported or more natively integrated into these upgraded systems, that's gonna be the big thing. Because, like you said, the performance gain you can get is just so big. So yeah, Dutch, good thing here. Let me catch up on some other super chats. Pyromed is a channel member for 4 months and sends in a channel super chat. Thank you, man, for the support. He says, "Happy gaming, everyone. Boxenberger, Wandering Dutch, and the whole chat too. Happy gaming indeed. Great times to be a gamer. This year is so awesome. And man, you know what game I want to see this year is Dragon Age 4. And I'm a high fantasy RPG fan. I just am. So yeah, this week we got some news regarding that game. I don't know if you've seen that, but BioWare veteran Mark Dara and the Mass Effect team are helping to finish Dragon Age 4. They announced, as we further connect this new experience with the series legacy, Mark Darrell will join the team as a consultant, bringing with him years of experience of working on Dragon Age, man. This year has been quite the year where EA started to talk about Dragon Age. There's hardly a month going by where they do not mention Dragon Age to some degree. They bring in the Mass Effect team. I've seen people, of course, being disappointed about that because that means we might have to wait a little longer for Mass Effect. But which, of course, if I had to choose personally between the two, I would also prefer Mass Effect, but it doesn't take away that I'm super excited for Dragon Age as well. So they hired the some old designers from the originals. So Dutch, do you think we will see this game this year?
Yeah, it's a good possibility. I think I'm sure they mentioned kind of the tail end of last year that they're going to be showing this game off a little bit this year. So
actually, they said that last January as well. They said in January or February 2022, they also said they are going to show the game this year. So, of course, that means 2022. So,
yeah. So, fingers crossed. I hope for your sake it does. I've never been a big Dragon Age fan personally. And again, I think it's one of them Marmite games. People either love it and I wouldn't say they hate it, but the gameplay in itself is very hit or miss. Some people love that game. Some people just go, it's not for me. And it's just one of them games. And I tried, and it was the companions. I couldn't get away with kind of trying to manage or kind of direct the companions and what they do and how they got kind of involved in the gameplay. And it wasn't one that I enjoyed myself, but it's a very popular game, a very popular franchise. So
for good reason.
Fingers crossed.
It's good, man. It's good.
Yeah. Fingers crossed, because I know it is a big game, that you do get to see it this year. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to see it. We've seen the leaked footage from very early in the game. You could already tell that they vastly improved the animations and whatnot. But I want to see how the next gen Frostbite engine looks, and runs, of course, with such an RPG. And I want to see where they take the lore, whether they will do like a soft reboot, or whether they will build upon the previous games. I do love some high fantasy RPGs, so the likes of a Witcher, the likes of a Skyrim, those are my games, and Dragon Age just hits that tone for me. So I definitely want to see that. But yeah, E3 season, maybe, if there is an E3. But we will get to that later. I know you're a big Playground fan, man. But do you remember a couple of months ago, we had this departure of a lot of game developers in leadership positions at Playground, forming their own studios, and there was another one this week. And that is the co-founder of Playground, Gavin Rayburn. He has launched his own new AAA game studio. He said the following: "With Horizon, Playground and I created one of the most successful Xbox franchises of all time. We delivered significant commercial success year after year to massive critical acclaim, following the success from my time at Codemasters, leading Dirt, Grid, and Formula One. That DNA is now at Lighthouse, and with it, we intend to build something truly special using all our experience to create a new genre-defining franchise." So, yeah, another one leaving Playground. So, what do you make of this?
Yeah, it's clear to me right now that these people that have come through the ranks at Playground have obviously had ambitions of having their own studios.
Yeah.
And it's clear that Microsoft aren't going to stand in their way. If anything, they'll end up being partners. They'll definitely be partners.
Could very well be, yeah.
Games up there and things like that. But no, it's it's great to see. I always say it's great to see these people realize their dreams, as essentially, because owning and running a studio is not easy things. If anybody's watched any of the recent documentaries, from even Ray creating Sea of Thieves, or Double Fine's documentary, which was like 28 episodes long, you can just see just how hard it is, not only to bring in the right talent, to keep your staff motivated, to the hours you've got to work in order to create the games you want to create, and when issues start happening in development and things like that, and systems go down. And if you watch the Double Fine documentary specifically, one of their issues was just before it was due to launch, what the entire system, like all of the servers, power supplies fried, all of them. And they had to go out and replace the power supplies, otherwise they'd lost all of the release version of the game. And then that was literally the day before they were going to send that. This is our final print copy of the game. This is it. We're done. All the everything fried. So, and they had to fix that. These are issues that you have to take on board when you're in charge of a studio. So you've got to have a special kind of mentality to be in the game industry for that long. Work your way through and say, it is, I want to own my own thing and create my own stuff and be my own boss. I think you have to have a special creative mentality in order to do that, and you have to have a mental strength to be able to create something from scratch, because it is not easy work, not at all. And it's not just even in the kind of, if you finite down it to even anybody who's attempted to be a content creator at all, that's the bare bones of creating something from scratch and trying to grow it. And the teeth and pains yourself from just being a basic content creator, of things that go wrong. You'll put one thing out and it does really well. The next thing completely falls flat on its face. And then you'll have channel issues, and you'll have upload issues, and something will go wrong, and a bit of equipment will break, and you'll be like, oh, grr. But then you do that on a mass scale, and you've got people that work underneath you, and you've got to manage them, and you've got to match their ambitions, and and look at things like internal promotions. Okay, this guy he's a designer, but he wants to be a senior artist, and this guy wants to be a director, and this guy wants to be a senior audio technician, and so on. So you've got to map all of this stuff that goes into creating a studio. I don't envy it, but you've got to have the real need to do that. A lot of people just love being artists in the industry. They're just really content with being in the best position in their role at a really great studio. But other people have bigger ambitions than that.
I mean, that goes for every management position, whether it's in gaming or somewhere else. Managing people it can be stressful, man. It can be stressful, but can also be very rewarding. And I do agree. I think after many years in a studio, now for many years already under the umbrella, of course, of Microsoft. But let's be real, Playground always was kind of a Microsoft studio. So to be your own boss, to do your own thing, and really not have to answer to anyone is obviously something I can understand why people would do it. And that's, of course, why we see the senior leaders leave. not the newbie in the industry usually, but so I'm looking forward to see what
they all come with new challenges. Is one of the things that they'll be interested in taking on, because it's not like the positions they've been in currently. They've been in leadership roles, but they've never had the worries in their leadership roles. For those at Playground, they've never had the worry of when's the next paycheck. Who's going to publish the game? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? How are we going to advertise this? Where are we going to get advertisement for that? Where are we going to get funding? These are brand new challenges for these. So it's good luck to them. And again, good luck to the previous guys who set up the awesome studio just before that. I'm really excited to see what both of these create. And again, you've got to think like Playground were super happy to take on the role of creating Fable and doing something different as opposed to working on Horizon. But these guys want to really go out and just create an entirely new thing that isn't Microsoft IP, a brand new thing entirely, create from their own imagination, not have to wait to see if Xbox will say, yes, go ahead, we'll greenlight that. They'll just
be your own boss, man. Just be your own boss. That's something. So we shall see what Lighthouse will have in store for us, man. Exciting times. So you know what else happened this week? Sarah Bond. I think you've heard of her. She put out a tweet. And of course, the Xbox community went wild. But before we talk about that, first, let me shout out the almost 100 people that are watching us here live. The 100 gamers we have here in the chat that take the time out of their busy schedule to join us here, to have some great conversations about gaming. So truly do appreciate you tuning in. We do hope you enjoy the show. And if you do so, would be absolutely awesome if you guys to consider to hit the like button. It's free, doesn't cost you anything other than a click, and it truly helps the channel and the show out. So we do appreciate it. And of course, if you're new here to the show, you could consider subscribing. It's also free and also helps us a lot. So thank you guys. But Dutch, have you seen Sarah Bond's tweet this week? She put out an image of the Fellowship of the Lord of the Rings, and of course the community went wild. Our good friend Cole Eastwood made a great montage. We have seen people, of course, now speculating about this. Man, what do you think? I mean, Sarah knows exactly what would happen if she puts out an image like that. So, man, what do you make of this? Why did she do this?
I think It was all to do. Personally, I think it's all to do with how she envisaged the Xbox family as kind of this close knit group that are kind of continuing to progress and power through and have a goal to achieve, etc. And she used the kind of image of the and I forgot what they kind of called them as well when they put the pin badge on and things like that. But the Fellowship, they kind of used the Fellowship kind of symbolism to kind of highlight that as Xbox internals, as a family, should we say, and how tight knit they are from a leadership perspective. But if you want to be on the conspiracy side of things, which will go down, the conspiracy theory, there's always a very real possibility that they might be working on a Lord of the Rings IP.
I mean,
And I think that's what a lot of people think of. And there's a possibility. We know there's a number of studios that are working on some. We know there's kind of an undisclosed MMO that's in development at the moment. We know there's undisclosed open world RPGs that are in development that we don't know of yet.
Yeah,
So
we
it
don't.
could be one of these big open world MMOs or action RPGs. It could be that one of them.
Yeah, ZeniMax Online. We don't know. We
Yeah.
don't know what they are working on. We do know that Xbox. We always say that Xbox is lacking that pop culture IP, you know,
Yeah.
in the portfolio. But we also do know that Amazon got the rights for the Lord of the Rings right now.
Yep. All of them. Yep.
All of them, movies, and everything.
Yep.
So, yeah, it could be. It could be. We also know that Xbox likes to control their gaming franchises and have control over the IP. We've heard Phil Spencer talk about this multiple times when being asked why he doesn't have his likes of a Spider-Man. Yeah. Like a PlayStation does. But you know, I know the message was, of course, we are one big family, we are one big fellowship here at Xbox. That was the message, but she must have known what people would imply into this tweet, and
it's the same. It's the same with Phil Spencer, which is what it was a running joke initially. Oh, look at what's on Phil Spencer's shelf. But then it became a fact that it was not actually a running joke because all of the stuff that he's got on his shelf actually ended up having relevance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he knew it and he played on it. So every time you seen him in an interview, he made sure he was always in the same segment.
Yeah.
He was never. There was always something new would always appear on the shelf. We've seen that with the little mini Xbox device that was used for cloud streaming. He was like, oh yeah, that was a cloud streaming device, but we've actually went back to the drawing board. So it was real. It wasn't fake. That was one of the units that he'd been testing. So the stuff that he's got there, and of course, historically, we had Kojima's the guy or the statue that they have. He had that on the shelf months before they announced the official.
He even had the Series X hiding in the bookshelf. Remember that?
Yeah, the Series S hiding in the bookshelf. Yeah, you've had this number of things that he's had on there over the months, and even before the Activision Blizzard thing, you had the Activision kind of logo statue thing on his shelf.
Yeah. Did you mention the Kojima thing?
Yeah.
So
the Ludens statue. That's what it's called. He had that. So he's every time. So it become this. Initially, it was this kind of running joke. What's on his shelf? But then I think he played into it, and he kind of intentionally put these little teasers in there because he knew it. Every time he was going to do on something random show, someone would pick something up, and it's happened to be like that. And I think Xbox know this from a tricky marketing perspective. They know how to play let's tease something, but let's be very vague, like extremely vague, and just not say a word. We'll just put a picture up and let it go.
As much as they like the classic marketing, they really know how to handle social media. I mean, that no other
Yeah.
gaming company has that many executives
In
being
Exile,
active
you have to say recently, In Exile Entertainment have been putting up some of the best social media videos.
Have you seen the Starfield
So-
video they put up?
Yes.
Hilarious,
Oh my God.
man.
They are super talented.
Yeah.
They are super. They would, if they created a YouTube channel just for these guys creating silly skits,
Truly.
they would do numbers.
Their social media manager is he's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
Imagine how fun that is to just from them guys to be given the free rein to just have fun and do that stuff all the time. Like that is the kind of working environment that they must absolutely love. They just imagine going into the office and just going, right, I've got an idea. I've got another idea for this thing. Can we do it? And they just go, whatever.
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 Go ahead, man. And isn't that just great? Like I said, there's no other gaming company that has this many executives going wild on social medias. You have like every studio has their community managers that are active.
I know from personal experience with certain management how welcoming, how supportive, how helping they are, how communicative they are.
Yeah.
And they're really, really good people. And of course, some of them get made fun out of by idiots on the internet. But ultimately, when you know them and you've spoken to them, like I've had the privilege to with some of these fine gentlemen and some of the developers and studio heads and things, they're all awesome people. They really are, and they're genuine and anything they can do to help or assist that within their possibilities. Of course, they've still got some restrictions to sign off at higher levels and things at times in terms of what they can say, what they can talk about. But ultimately, as people, they're absolutely awesome. Yeah. And it kind of shines through in the way that they do things on social media. As you mentioned, you don't see, like, outside of Corey Barlog, he's fun.
Yes.
He's fun as well.
Absolutely.
Outside of him, on social media, there's very few Sony guys that do anything.
Yeah. The only one I can think of, honestly, from the top of my head, is the social media manager from Bend. From Bend Studios, Kevin. He's very active on social. That's actually how he got the job, right? I do agree. While you were talking, I was thinking about all the community managers I had contact with, and you know which, not an Xbox studio, but one particular community manager stood out to me, and that is the guy from Stalker 2. From GSC Game World, their community manager. Seriously, one of the nicest people in the gaming industry I've talked to. Such a welcoming and positive. He has such a positive spirit surrounding him. Was that really stuck with me? So. But yeah, man.
I was going to say that from Nintendo's side, and it's a shame that it's happening now. But from Nintendo's side, since Reggie has left Nintendo, he's been one of the funniest guys on there.
Yeah.
So, like, I think I've forgotten who it was when there was another kind of content creator put a picture up, and he'd removed Sean Layden, and he'd put himself in the picture with him, Phil Spencer, and Reggie. And Reggie went, "Sean, are you going to take this?" And he was getting involved in the joke and things like that.
Yeah,
Reggie's another really cool guy. But Sean Layden, again, he says some weird things at times, but he's another guy that has been very active on social media. He talks with a lot of people all the time.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that some of the Sony execs feel that they have to remain disconnected from their community.
It's really weird. That's something that Xbox does so well, is connect with the community. And you can tell the Xbox community is a super welcoming community. It is. Not saying that the Nintendo community isn't, or PlayStation isn't, but I don't know. Obviously I'm a little biased here, but I do mean it. The Xbox community just is something. Yeah.
Yeah. Sony can definitely do a better job, and I think that is not from the studio head's perspective, because I think it depends on on what level of trust that studio is given. Now, Corey Barlog's in a position right now where he can say and do these things on social media and be himself because he's been successful.
Yeah, it's similar with Naughty Dog and of course Neil Druckmann.
Yeah,
where they just recently announced on their own that they are from now on gonna develop their games for PC and console. But not everyone can do that.
I don't think they give the trust to their studio heads to be able to just be themselves on social media and just be open and talk to the community and things like that. And the loopholes you've got to get through to even speak to people at Sony is just, it's almost like a brick wall. And it's Xbox is entirely different. I can literally hit up Aaron Greenberg and say, Aaron, what have you got the contact details for such and such? Like, can you help us out? And your point is in the right direction, and say, okay, contact this guy.
True.
And that's how open and transparent and helpful they are. And if they can help, they will help. But unfortunately for Sony, is it's like, unless we've contacted you, and or you've had one of our smaller guys on and you've gradually built it up over time, you've got no chance. You've got zero chance.
That's the thing. You know what else Xbox does really well in with regards to that are the regular fan events, fan fests and everything around the globe. As poor as their marketing is, and everyone knows that discussion, but they do really well these fan events all around the world. We have a fan event coming up at Gamescom, of course, in Germany. You have one in Spain, in the UK. You have, of course, in the US, your fan fests. In New Zealand, in Australia, everywhere. They do these fan fests and fan events and actually do shows. You know, Sony hasn't had a show in a long time now, and they do presence stuff, and that's just something. They do try to connect the community, and I think that's what Xbox has always been, building communities. They from the very beginning, you know, with Xbox Live, that was like, okay, hey, online gaming on console, to have to create a community, you know, that was something new in the console space. I know the Dreamcast had online, but it doesn't count, you know. It's just
a lot of them old consoles didn't. I mean, if you had to buy like separate modem adapters and things like that. The GameCube, for instance, had I remember that giant thing that came on that you plugged into the bottom of it, and I was like, what a farce. They all did. PlayStation had the weird attachment, like PlayStation 2 had the weird kind of...
No. And it's from the very beginning that they have been about building communities, getting in touch with the community. And to this day, you can tell that with all these executives out there on socials, with the social media managers and so on. So, yeah, man. That's just special.
It seems like they just keep getting better with it. That's the thing. It's like they haven't got worse. If anything, there's more people interacting. There's more developers that have got the free room to go on and interact with the communities, whether big or small. It's awesome, and they're not shy to kind of get involved with their community. Like the Forza, I put a silly clip up of Forza Horizon the other day of me just showing off the new anti-lag on that, and three of the studio guys from Forza Horizon retweeted it. Forza Horizon retweeted it. Before I knew it, it had got 1,200 likes and 40,000 views and things like that. And I'm like, this is like, you don't see that on PlayStation's end. You never see any of their studios retweeting like fan clips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So how connected they are, and that's across the board. If any of them do it, you've seen that with Hi-Fi Rush. John Johannes personally went through literally every possible tweet and talking about the game, posting about the game, liked it and commented to everybody, had conversations with everybody in any language. He if he could translate it, he would translate it and respond to them. And it's just another level, and that shows the trust. I think personally, that shows the trust that Xbox hierarchy have got, and the remit that they've been given to involve themselves with the community. Like, go out, guys, be yourselves. This is a community-driven platform. to go in and interact with the community is essentially the remit that I think they've been given from top bottom.
Yep.
And it shows.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. I do agree, man. I do agree. Let me shout out Dave Ramos, who sends in a channel member chat, super chat. What are they called, Dutch? Is their name? Because it's not a super chat, but channel members can post supers.
Yeah, channel members get one free luxury post.
Yes.
They're one free super chat.
One free super chat every month. Every of our awesome channel members do that. By the way, let's take the opportunity and shout out the channel members. I know I have their names always scrolling here on the top through, but it's an amazing support you guys show, and truly a big thank you for that. It really helps out. The channel members, by the way, do get like custom-made badges and emojis, and the tier 2 supporters get early access to the videos. If I actually upload some these days,
I really should. I always feel guilty because I feel like I don't do enough for the channel members, and
same here.
I really appreciate the support that we get from our channel members and fund, and of course help funding the show and its growth, etc. But I really feel like I don't produce enough, and I don't. It's great having emojis and things like that, but really I want to be able to do more for yourselves. So it is one of those things that I do want to improve on and provide more content, but it's really hard because I want to make it substantial and not just gimmicky. I don't want to just put a little post up and like a tiny little video. I want to make it good enough. And it's hard to create something that is good enough that stands on its own 2 feet for channel members. And it's
same
hard,
here,
but
man.
I'll get there. Yeah,
same here. I know the feeling. It's. I wish I could do more.
But the one thing I don't want to do,
of course,
I was going to say one thing I don't want to do, and I've seen other kind of larger creators do is completely like monetize and lock out certain podcasts from the entirety of the channel.
I've thought about that as well, doing the exclusive podcasts every month or so for the channel members. Yeah. Also, but I do want everyone to have access to the content we create, because simply being here is also a super appreciated support. Honestly, that's all you can ask for as a content creator, that people take the time. I know everyone's busy, and just take the time and actually watches the stuff we create. So I don't want to lock anyone out simply because they're not support. Not a channel member. It's still a super appreciated support, simply for being here, watching the show live, watching the videos, and maybe hit the like button. That's just enough.
And the notification bell, because that helps.
Yeah, that actually really helps. Yeah, the notification bells, man. The algorithm loves the notification bells.
That's the thing that and this is why we all laugh, because when we say hit the like button and share and make sure you've got the notification button on, like those things are more for the algorithm than they are for us.
Yeah.
Like, of course, the only way we're going to get a greater audience or a bigger people seeing it isn't just because you're sharing it. It's because algorithms look at what's the like ratio to people watching it, what's the people that have put the notifications on, and it takes that into account before it then puts it out to a wider audience. Yeah. So it's mad. It's mad. It's kind of like begging at times, though, isn't it? You feel like, can you please like it?
I know. Randall Thor is always telling me I don't do it often enough. But it's like you said, you kind of feel like begging. You don't want to do that. But of course you want to have success with the algorithm. So, man, coming back to Dave's super chat, Dave. Dude, you're distracting us, man. We still have no idea how are the super chats called that channel members can send in. So the channel
super member chat. Super member chat.
Super member chat. There we go. Super member chat. I like that. He says, pop culture transcends platforms and codes. It's one thing to have a successful game based on pop culture, an entirely different challenge to also own that IP. It is. That's the thing. I do get the thing why Microsoft always says, hey, we want to have the control over our IPs, over the games, over the franchises. But then pop culture IPs, your likes of the superheroes, your likes of Star Wars or whatnot, they just interconnect different forms of entertainment. You have TV series, movies, whatever. And that just helps for gaining a broader, wider audience. So, yeah.
And the things with IPs as well is the big IPs transcend just the gaming. If you have a look at the most the largest and most successful game IP that is related to gaming in the world and still is currently, it's Pokemon. And that's not because of just the games. Yes, the games are ultra successful.
Yeah.
But it has a huge, in terms of its franchise, it has a huge TV show that's lasted decades. It's got an absolute boatload of merchandise. It's got multiple kind of different avenues of gaming you can do. You can play on your mobile. You can play on you can play on the Nintendo itself. You can play on the computer. There's many methods of playing different Pokemons now, like Pokemon Unite or Pokemon Go, or the many different Pokemons that they've got. And then they've got, again, they mentioned the TV shows, and then you've got all the merches for different Pokemons. They've got huge stores. They've got, and that's what IPs are. And believe it or not, before the release of Halo Infinite, Halo was a $5 billion IP.
Yeah.
In terms of its actual market value, in terms of the all the stuff that come along with it, whether it be its TV shows, whether it be the films that it had previously, whether it be the games that it released, whether it be the tournaments that it has, whether it be the merchandise that comes off the back of it, like Master Chief's helmet and clothing and silly costumes and stuff like that.
Stuff like that.
All that stuff is franchisable. And when you have a large franchise like a Spider-Man, like a even a Forza, should we say, because they've teamed up with Hot Wheels and create little Hot Wheels cars and things now.
They have
or
teamed
Lego
up with Pirates
Lego
of the Caribbean,
and Pirates of the Caribbean,
and Sea of
and
Thieves,
all of that stuff. And
Yeah.
they mentioned, and again, for those who watched the Sea of Thieves documentary, Disney came to them and said, "Listen, we could have made our own game, but why when we could work with you?"
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you've got an IP. And again, that's them having one of the largest IPs that there is coming to Microsoft and saying, "We want to work with you." We could have made a
Control
game.
over the franchise. That's what it comes down to, man. That's what it comes down to.
And but franchises these days, especially major franchises like your Spider-Man, going back to it, is more than just the game. It's everything that goes along with a major franchise IP. So Lord of the Rings, for instance, it isn't, and that's what he's kind of reiterating with the likes of a Spider-Man or anything like that. There's always someone that holds the IP that then has mass market appeal for everything else. So Sony have literally just over half of the rights to Spider-Man in general. So they've got the franchisable IP, they've got the films, they've got the games, they've got the merchandise. So that is their biggest IP in terms of actual market value by a country mile, because it brings in other avenues of income. Microsoft, outside of Halo, don't have many of those franchisable IPs that bring in additional income from clothing and toys and things like that. That's the difference that you've got to manage, and then TV series and things like that. And I can understand Phil Spencer's thing there. Like, I want control over the IPs that we have, because we do, with regards working on a Lord of the Rings, or even in Indiana Jones, for instance, which has a new film coming out. there's a set thing that they have to kind of try and achieve. Like with Indiana Jones, for instance, for all we know, they could have a targeted release date of near the release of the film to make sure that kind of it's interesting with that. It could be something that, and that's out of the control of Microsoft because
I've
it could
thought
be an
about
agreement.
that. I mean, the movie comes out this year, right? So we always said, no, we don't believe that this game has been in the works for many years. I mean, Wolfenstein 2 came out.
That's what I'm saying. This is when Phil Spencer says he wants control over the IP.
Yeah.
When you've got an IP owner as big as the likes of Indiana Jones, and that's Disney, or as big as Spider-Man, etc., or Lord of the Rings, where the IPs are controlled outside of that, and they say, "Oh yeah, we'll work and do a game with you," etc., etc., etc. However, we have a show that's releasing at X date, so we really want you to have that game release there or thereabouts the same time, so we can kind of both benefit from that.
Yeah.
So they'll kind of then, and I think that's one of the restrictions that Phil doesn't like is having that kind of noose around them to say, listen, we need that game released within this window. And this is one of the issues that's affected The Last of Us on PC recently.
Yeah.
They had this targeted thing to try and get it out by when the show finishes airing. It was delayed, and it should have been delayed longer. And by the looks of things, they've pushed it out early, just to try and get it as close as possible to that meeting point. When it should have been, it really needed another good couple of months to get that fixed.
Obviously. I asked you this yesterday, the spicy question.
Yeah.
I mean, we have heard a company suggesting as of late that you could maybe introduce intentional bugs into a platform you not prefer, and a few days or weeks later, the Last of Us comes out on PC like it is in this state. Not saying it was intentional, not implying that, but you know. But coming back to pop culture IP, man, you know what pop culture IP got some news this week? Avatar from Ubisoft. They had a leak. Have you seen that?
Yeah, we have seen bits of it.
Yeah, so the first in-game screenshot was leaked, and the leaker also said that he'll be sharing a gameplay footage soon. So, what did you think of the looks of it?
That'll be DMCA'd immediately.
Yeah.
It's when it's a Disney IP, that's going to get taken down quicker than it goes up.
Yeah, true. That's so true. I think it's hard to find today. Actually, if you start Google, I mean, the internet never forgets, but like you said, Disney is very strict on that. So yeah, we shall see if we get some proper gameplay, official gameplay from your likes of Ubisoft this year. But man, we're almost 2 hours into the show. It's time to talk about some of the bigger news items. One of the lead stories of our show, put it in the cover, is something that happened earlier this week. Some US members of the Congress accused Sony of blatant anti-competitive conduct in Japan. 11 Congress members supported this accusation. I'm quoting now. The accusation being made is that Sony deliberately makes exclusive deals with third-party publishers that are designed to ensure Xbox doesn't gain foothold in Japan. The Senator Cantwell said, "I'm told that Sony controls a monopoly of 98% of the high-end game market, yet Japan's government has allowed Sony to engage in blatant anti-competitive conduct through exclusive deals and payments to game publishers." Dutch.
Do you want a little spicy take here? That's quite funny.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So you had that article.
Mm.
We know that Congress have put these because it's I think it's racking up at something like 12 to 14 of Congress members and senators have kind of signed this thing to the JFTC. The Japanese, the JFTC, only began the process of approving or at least looking at the Microsoft the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
Just over 2 weeks ago, and have already approved it. Now, how much of a coincidence is that?
That's a good point.
Came only days after these senators and congressmen put in a complaint to the JFTC of Sony's involvement in Japan.
We have the JFTC actually as a topic for a little later in the show, but I do agree. It's a kind of a weird coincidence because the investigation period of the JFTC was super short, right?
It was like just over 2 weeks.
Yes,
that is like they didn't go to it. Literally didn't even hit phase 1, phase 2, or anything. It just went
approved. Exactly. So yeah, the congressman, man. I mean, what can we say? It's not just happening in Japan, although of course their foothold is substantially larger, 98% of the high-end game market. It's always weird that they leave out Sony in this comparison. Nintendo in this comparison. What we do get is that they have exclusive deals. We've seen it with like this year. I'm excited for Final Fantasy 16. I know people like to hate these days on Square. I still love the franchise. I enjoyed Final Fantasy 15. I had a blast with it. Was it the best Final Fantasy ever made? Of course not. The Final Fantasy 7 remake, though, was absolutely fantastic. So I'm a Final Fantasy fan. So I want to play that. But I would prefer to play that on the platform of my choice. And it's just one example. We have also seen things like the parity clause. We've seen them put in like, what's the proper English word, that they forbid games to release in Game Pass or the subscription service. Yes, things like that that are at least in a gray zone, if you want to put it this way and phrase it a little bit more diplomatic, you know. They are at least in a gray zone with those kind of deals, with those kind of clauses in the contracts. So it comes at a funny time that this is now happening in the period where the FTC needs to make a decision. They have to come to a decision in the next couple of weeks. And now Sony, the only company that disapproves the deal with Activision Blizzard, is now being accused of being anti-competitive, of having like these kind of business practices. So, Dutch, do you think there's some thing to this accusations, and do you think it will impact the decision of the FTC regarding the ABK deal?
It's underhand tactics. You could argue anti-competitive to a sector. Developers are never going to say no to a bag. Square Enix have never said no to a bag, and primarily for them, I think this highlights specifically Square Enix when it comes to timed exclusivity. And if you have a look at the likes of Final Fantasy VII Remake, for instance, that was meant to be a timed exclusive until 2021. It's been extended and extended and extended to the point now where we've kind of given up hope on that, and we kind of just admit, hey, listen, Final Fantasy's never ever coming back to Xbox. Like we've got the rubbish versions that no one really wants. But
I mean, that's the accusation, you know. It's not just about exclusive, because everyone makes exclusive deals. Every publisher does that. Xbox has Stalker 2 coming this year, so yeah, we can't really say that. The complaint really is that they target a specific genre.
Yep.
In
And
this
it
case,
is,
of
and you
course,
can kind of tell.
JRPGs.
Only recently have Microsoft started getting a lot of the contracts through from the Persona guys and some other kind of Japanese and Chinese creators and things to start going on Xbox. But the biggest of them all, one of the largest kind of long-standing ones, Square, is absolutely part of this, and they're both so shady, and I don't. If you have a look at their methods that Sony are going, not even just Sony, sorry, Square are going through now, with regards to their route, with NFCs and blockchain and stuff like that. Even though it's a failing market, it is a massively failing market. Like all of the kind of all of them things and the silliness that went around with that, they're all kind of trying to get banks to bail them out now because they've got failing cryptocurrencies, and they insist that is the method that they want to go down.
Have you seen this week? They announced, Square Enix announced that they are releasing a set of Final Fantasy VII NFT trading cards. So you have this trading cards, and each pack contains 6 physical cards and 1 with an NFT voucher. So you can get your Tifa as an NFT man.
But like I don't like this is a Square that I used to respect when they were back as Squaresoft, and then the original merger with Enix for Square Enix, but then they were a good developer. They were a very well respected developer, and this isn't the Square that I know or loved. They're making really weird decisions. They don't really care about anything. They're more focused on the bottom line than they are about the consumer. As much as people think Final Fantasy 16 looks great, it's not Final Fantasy. It's just yet another action RPG. There is no kind of original. The whole turn-based JRPG that they've become famous for is gone. It's absolutely vanished. The only game they've got left that's anything like that is Octopath Traveler, and even then, they've put that on every platform aside from Xbox.
Which is so weird if you remember. That game originally only came out on the Switch, and then when it came to PC, it also launched in Xbox Game Pass, not on the PlayStation. Now the second part only available on PlayStation and of course PC.
It's just so like so. But I don't put it past. I do not put it past them now, and I can understand why they're saying it. So I can understand why they're accusing them of certain things, but it's also kind of an industry expectation that you're going to get timed exclusivity. I think the issue with the timed exclusivity agreements from Sony is that they retroactively have the ability to continue to extend these exclusivity agreements beyond it, to the point where it's literally pointless even asking for this thing anymore. And from an Xbox point of view, are you going to keep, like, 4 years down the line, we still haven't got Final Fantasy 14, we still haven't got Final Fantasy 7 remake.
Xbox, remake, man.
Yeah. Are Xbox hierarchy really going to continue to just go to Square? Like, guys, it's been 4 years. Like, what's happening? You originally said this was coming to the platform. We've mentioned we've had talks about Final Fantasy 14 coming to the platform. Like, what is the holdup? What is the issue? And it's clear that it's to do with it continuously being extended by Sony. It is. That's the only reason it's not on the platform. And we've seen their specific agreements that say they want developers to have a minimum of a year before they can go into Game Pass, a minimum of potentially up to 2 years until they can go on Xbox at all. We've seen these exclusivity agreements, and that's something that Microsoft have said, and this has been for a while. Tomb Raider was the last big IP that they ever did a big agreement for. Outside of that, they've kept their exclusivity agreements strictly to indie studios, smaller indie studios, not big IPs like your Tomb Raiders or your Final Fantasies or anything like that. All of those big IPs they've just left alone, which is why they haven't got into a bidding war for Call of Duty previously, for the timed exclusivity agreements on map packs and things like that. which is why they didn't get into the bidding war for Hogwarts Legacy DLCs. Like, unless it's an indie studio, you don't see any of these big AAAs being poached by Microsoft for ridiculously 1 year, 2 year agreements anymore. You don't see it. And they don't have agreements in there these days that say you can't put it on PlayStation Plus, because they're saying now, as part of agreements with Call of Duty and other games, you can put Call of Duty on PlayStation Plus. Have it. We don't care. Put it wherever you want. Here's Nvidia. There's a contract. You put Call of Duty on the air. You put it on whatever those other ones are. All of these different streaming services. Have it. It's a completely counter kind of argument to them. And Sony are doing everything to remove places that certain games can be played to give the visage and the appearance that these things can only be played on this platform.
Yeah.
That they have no involvement in development, and you see all these defensive tweets about, oh, well, they help fund. You didn't help fund it. They paid a bag to get exclusivity.
Yes.
That's not help funding the game. That's giving them an exclusivity.
They never found
agreement.
a Call of Duty or a Destiny or I don't know what. Like, see, that's the thing. I mean, I get the congressman being mad about, okay, market share 98% in Japan, and Japan is not doing anything about this. And the accusation is, of course, having like exclusive deals there. Again, I think exclusive deals, yes, I want the Square games to be everywhere. I do want that, but then again, Xbox also does exclusive deals, not maybe with the same punch like Sony does them. Like they get the bigger ones, you know.
I thought
you
we had
can't compare Atomic Heart to a Final Fantasy simply for the legacy name. But anyway,
I thought we had I was going to say, just to briefly, I thought we had a breakthrough a couple of years ago when Xbox announced that all of the back catalog original Final Fantasy games are coming to Game Pass. They dropped Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, all into Game Pass. All of the older ones, awesome, great. All with achievements and things like that, brilliant. We can go back and play these classic IPs. Going forward, we're going to get Final Fantasy 7 Remake. We're going to get the Final Fantasy 14. And it's the opposite because of the agreements. And it's intentional. It's absolutely intentional. We've seen it this year. Just this year alone, 3 Square Enix exclusive games. That's not even including Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. You've got Final Fantasy 16. You've got Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. You've got Forspoken and something else as well.
Yeah.
All this year, exclusivity, specifically
all exclusive.
For PlayStation.
Yeah, and the thing is that there's a difference in like, okay, here's an exclusive or timed exclusive deal, and like you said, Final Fantasy VII was promised to us and then not delivered. That's a little bit of difference. There are other things, especially through the ABK deal, we learned of other things where I would say that a certain anti-competitive behavior is more obvious than the likes of your exclusive deals. Because exclusive deals, again, they are kind of part of the industry. But when I look at things like the parity clause, developers need to withhold graphics or performance on other platforms that they could make their games look better, run better, simply because it's a better hardware, and developers can't do that. That's anti-competitive behavior. There's also an anti-competitive behavior if your business model is around customers paying full price and then forbid to other publishers to make different options available, like subscription services. Having a clause in your contract of your likes of a certain game that is not even exclusive to your platform, that is published everywhere, but you cannot publish it in a subscription service. I don't know. That sounds more anti-competitive to me than having an actual exclusive deal. These are the things. These are the kind of things that we have learned over the last couple of years that Sony does, where I do feel that they annoy me even more honestly, I like games in a subscription service. Yeah, because it
the
saves
funny
me
thing
money.
is as
I
well
like.
with Sony. Yeah, I was going to say the funny thing is as well with Sony is they'll drop a game, like if they've got an exclusivity agreement for a long period of time, they hype that game up to beyond recognition, where everyone's super excited for it. The game releases and it's an absolute hot mess. People don't play it. It doesn't sell well, etc. Sony drop it like it's hot. They forget about it. Within 2 months, it's released on the next platform.
Then again, paying for exclusive certain parts, like the additional Call of Duty level or whatever, extra content. I don't think that if I pay the same price on PC or another console like the Xbox for a game, I want the same content. And if someone pays to deliver less content on certain platforms, like with Hogwarts Legacy and whatnot, I feel that feels anti-competitive to me, because they're literally paying to put the competitor in a worse spot. So yeah, that's the kind of things that we've seen from Sony. And when I saw this press release for with the congressman, 11 congressmen signing this, Biden's administration should look into this. The reason they chose, like having exclusives in Japan or Japan, making Japanese-based games exclusive, would not have been my first point to bring up. But yeah, we shall see, man. Do you think this will impact like the ABK deal in any way, shape, or form?
I don't think so. It's just hyper coincidence that the JFTC, without doing any real digging into this deal, just approved it within 2 weeks of it going into them. It's super coincidental that they just approved it with no issues.
Yes,
like mere days after that statement.
Let's talk about that for a second, man. Because the JFTC, like you said, announced it in less than 2 weeks. They approved the deal, and they said obviously it would not harm the competition substantially, and so it's cleared over there. At the same time, Bobby Kotick, Activision's CEO, also said that Sony's disappointing behavior hopefully won't damage their long-term relationship. So that's basically the news that came out of this acquisition thing this week. What do you think? JFTC.
I mean, it's good that they've approved it really quickly. It's like I mentioned, it was hyper coincidental that after the congressman had put that out, then all of a sudden, like a day later,
they approved it. Yeah.
Really coincidental. But aside from that, of course, it's great to see it get it approved in more markets. I think on the front of the FTC, Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard have already said, regardless of what the FTC think, as long as the CMA and the EU approve it at this point, it's getting closed. They'll deal with the FTC's kickback afterwards. They'll present the same remedies to the FTC. If the FTC don't like it, then they'll take them to federal and they'll say, listen, we'll just get the federal judge to approve it, but we're closing this deal, is essentially what they're saying. And we all know the FTC have no grounds no actual factual grounds to block the deal. And none that would stand up at federal court. None. Because the facts and the figures back the fact that it's not an anti-competitive merger. It doesn't hinder competition.
Yeah.
The facts prove that. There is no factual basis for Microsoft to need to take Call of Duty away from anybody, because it would substantially harm themselves, not anybody else. If they did that.
True that.
From a financial basis, they would lose literally hundreds, if not billions, by taking Call of Duty off other platforms.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. It really isn't. So why would they do it? And that is the correction, and we'll get to that part as well. The correction that other authorities have had, we've noticed this. We've noticed that it doesn't financially negatively impact anybody, and it's not going to. If anybody it would impact would be Microsoft if they chose to do that. So they've got no reason to. But it's good news from that it was a quick kind of pass through there. And I think it's starting to mark the beginning of the end of this scenario. Thank God.
Oh yeah. With every authority approving the deal, we get one step closer. But of course, the big three are the EU, the CMA, and the FTC. So, But hey, end of April, this is over. And then the big question comes up, Dutch. What will the gaming community have as a weekly topic? Probably
Games,
gonna be Scalebound, man. It's gonna be Scalebound again.
No, not Scalebound again. No, we'll have loads of games because thankfully at the end of April and May, when the EU and the CMA make their final decisions, we'll have June, which is showcase season.
Speaking of which, you think it's gonna be a real showcase season? Because the E3 this year is, I don't know, not looking good. And it's a shame. It's a shame. E3 has always been the Super Bowl of gaming. It's been Gamers Christmas. I remember I loved the original E3s, where we had like all the press conferences back to back. You had like German time in the morning, usually something, or afternoon-ish. You started with Xbox. 2 hours later, you had the Ubisoft, and you had your EA, you had your Bethesda, and then in the middle of the night, when you had like 5 Red Bulls already to stay awake, you finally watched Sony, and it was one entire day of press conference after press conference, and then the day after, you had the media creators, the press go on the show floor having the interviews, and I watched interviews and game clips and trailers all day. That's how I experienced E3, and obviously that has already changed in the last years before the pandemic, with some major publishers backing out. The press conferences have been scattered. They are not in one day back after back, but scattered through the entire week. They opened it up to the public, which is of course cool that fans can go. But with that, we kind of lost the bigger interviews and likes of that. And now this year, E3, it's not looking promising. Earlier this week, Ubisoft announced that they are no longer attending E3, but they will host their own event in June. They've said E3 has fostered unforgettable moments across the industry throughout the years. While we initially intended to have an official E3 presence, we've made the subsequent decision to move in a different direction and will be holding a Ubisoft Forward live event on June 12th in Los Angeles. We look forward to sharing more details with our players soon. So, do we know when is the Xbox press conference? It was June
11th of June.
11th?
The
11th.
Xbox,
Yes.
the Xbox
and the Starfield event.
Directly after by Starfield,
Yeah. So
Ubisoft is on the 12th. You've already got 3 lined up.
Yeah. And then Sega and Tencent also have confirmed that they won't be attending E3 this year. So no major publisher confirmed for the show or the event.
And consequently, both Sega and this is the same for all of them. To be fair, they've all confirmed that they won't be attending E3, but they will have their own show.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
So, what do you think? Why is that, man? Why is no one, even Microsoft a couple of years ago, still confirmed how important E3 is for them, and Ubisoft earlier this year confirmed that they will be attending, and now they're backing out. So, what's going on? Why is E3 having such hard times to find their right for existence in a 2023? Is it because of the pandemic? Is it because of something else, man?
Yeah, definitely something else. I don't think the pandemic has anything behind it.
Yeah.
So for me, there's a number of key factors here that you've got to think from a developer or publisher perspective as well, in terms of monetary costs and returns for what you're doing. So to have a presence on show floor and an event directly linked with E3, it costs millions to be part of that. It's not just a case of just turning up and paying a couple of $100,000. It's millions to have a show presence. And for that, on a physical presence basis, you're getting 63,000 people through the doors during the event.
Compare that to Gamescom, man.
Yep. Comparing against Gamescom, where their lowest post-pandemic, and this is obviously the first show after the pandemic for Gamescom, was 293,000 heads. Their highest has been close to 400,000 people attending Gamescom. So the amount of people as an actual physical presence turning up to that show is significantly high, and gives them an actual reason to turn up, because they've got almost 500,000 people coming to physically see them and play their games and see their product, etc. So the actual requirement is still there for them to be a presence.
I mean, they started as a fan event. E3 has never been that. They've originally been an event for traders, where
and this is another thing as well. Another counter thing as well to the E3 issue is, when you have a look at it from an investor perspective, the trade event was for investors to go and see what was coming next from the company, so that we'd invest in that product or invest in them going forwards, etc., etc., etc. See what you could do, etc. From an investor point of view now, key stakeholders, investors, etc., are always in monthly meetings. Key stakeholders can physically call up any of these directors. They have their monthly kind of behind closed doors meetings. They get documents of information, whether that be in PDF or physical form. These are things that didn't used to occur previously. You would have to go to these big trade events and see whether or not you want to invest or get your updates for the year. And investors would then make their decisions whether or not these are doing really great things. I'm going to invest in Microsoft, or I'm going to invest in Sony. There isn't a requirement for that anymore. Microsoft can they do all that stuff behind closed doors. They can speak to key stakeholders, and this is the same for Sony and Nintendo. You can speak to all your key stakeholders behind closed doors on your annual and quarterly meetings. Let them know the updates for all the projects you've got in the works. They already know months in advance before we do what's in the works, years in advance sometimes. Okay, we're on track to do X, Y, and Z project, which we have scheduled for this release time frame. We have X, Y, and Z that are scheduled for this time frame. This is what other things we've got working on in the background. And investors are kept up to date without our knowing, and we don't need to think about that. On the flip side, then E3, which was a trade show, no longer has a trade requirement. There is no need for investors to be at that show anymore. There's no need, because they can do all that stuff and it doesn't cost them a penny. If investors can literally invest in Microsoft and have these conversations directly with Microsoft, they can go there and see all of their financial documents and their plans moving forward. From a consumer perspective, with the digital age being the way it is and compare it to what it was, you can go and create an online digital presence, or with the likes of Microsoft, who have their own theater, have a physical presence themselves, get tens of thousands in the theater and millions of views online for no cost, zero cost to yourself other than the production, other than the physical production cost, which to them is just them using their own their own equipment and their own overheads. It's next to zero expenditure to put on their own show in comparison to spending millions to get a much less impact. Like, why would you do it for 63,000 heads? What's the actual return for millions of pounds worth of investment?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
next to nothing.
It's
Next to
absolutely.
nothing. When you share those 63,000 between all publishers and developers, you're talking about Ubisoft and Sega and Capcom and PlayStation, Nintendo and EA and all of those all bundled into one room, 63,000. You divvy them up, that 63,000, you might be lucky if your stands get a third of that people passing through to see your game. You're not going to get all 63,000 people looking what games you've got there, because not all of them are going to see your game or what your games are.
Exactly.
So the return of investment's just not there anymore.
Yeah.
And this is where Gamescom is still successful, because the return of investment of actually having a physical presence at Gamescom, as well as then a show to go alongside that, is far higher, because you've got almost 500,000 physical people going through the doors over a course of like 3-4 days, if not longer. It's just an insane amount of return for the money. And it's a fan event as opposed to the original one, E3, which was a trade event, which was turned into a trade and fan event. So it's lost its meaning because the meaning is no longer required. And it doesn't have the footfall in order to be kind of justified financially. It's not justifiable. And I can understand. And this is Microsoft saying, nah. Sony, nah. Nintendo, nah. So if those who have the most money out of the lot of them are refusing to go because they think that the outlay is too big, then the smaller guys are absolutely not going to go, because it's just too much.
I agree. I totally agree. And Thomas Bellotti in the chat also brings up a great point. Not having to rely on E3 actually lets you choose your timing of communication and having your moment. You don't have to have it all on the same day, because obviously that's what happens when you have like 4 or 5 press conferences per day. Every singular announcement decreases. Yeah, we do. But I get it. If you do, that's why I said I would be surprised if Sony has their show in June. They will do something probably in September. They want to have their own spotlight. Nintendo also.
We all loved it, and we'll agree this. The reason we all loved it was the competition.
Yes.
Like, you'd see the Microsoft show first.
The discussion, like, who won E3 and things like that. But at the end, who will own the headlines? There will be no headlines, because you have like 1,000 articles per day on every website. So if you have your own show that stands on its own, separate from others, timing-wise separate from others, you will own the news in that week or 2 weeks or whatever. So that's definitely a thing. And about size of the shows, there are also other shows like PAX and whatnot. In every country, you have those game events. They all started
Tokyo Game Show,
Tokyo Game, exactly.
Paris
Game Show.
Yeah.
And they have in Australia, there's one in Australia, can't remember the name from the top of my head. Doesn't matter. They're different shows, and they all started around the concept of, well, this is for the fans. And that's what E3 didn't. Everyone complained about, E3 opened up to the public. Creators complained about it, the traders complained about it. And then, of course, the fees the ESA puts out to actually be under the umbrella of E3. It's not just that you have to pay your actual booth and whatnot, of course, but you have to pay a lot of extra fees. Combining all of that, it really brings up what is the necessity of such a trade show. If there are other shows you can deliver upon PAX, And of course, Dutch, you and I, we are going to Gamescom this year. And I think these kind of more fan-centric shows, they simply because they were built as shows for fans can more easily transfer over into modern day and age of post-pandemic, So yeah, E3, man. I think everyone will still call that time in June E3 time. Even do you think E3 is gonna happen? Because what is there right now? There's the big platform holders have all backed out. EA is not gonna be there. Ubisoft not gonna be there. Warner Brothers not being there. Tencent.
I don't think it's financially viable for them now to continue.
I don't
show.
think so.
I think discussions will be underway to wrap it up. I think it's definitely the sunset moment for them now. Unfortunately, I think E3's beyond repair at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a shame. A lot of creators look forward to go there.
We mentioned this yesterday, and this is a thing that other events do and have done, and what Microsoft do with their own XO events, which hopefully we'll see return soon as well, and only hasn't because of the pandemic previously. But the XO event for Microsoft was their own kind of mini showcase that they did once a year.
Yeah.
But they changed the location every time. So the previous one that they had was XO in that I went to was XO in London in 2019. Yeah. The year before that, I think, was in Amsterdam. The year before that was like Madrid. The year before that was, and they keep changing it. So it's always different, but they always do the online show as well. So everybody can see the same show.
Yes.
The people in the theater or event hall, wherever they are, have a physical booth so they can go and play the games and they can go speak to the developers and get freebies and things like that, which is awesome. And like last time I went, I got the like this awesome flight sim kind of badge to put on there. I've got two of them actually. Still need to give one away. Woo! Specifically from XO, as you can see there, XO 2019.
Yeah, nice.
And they do those things at the event, but then the entire show as well is online, so everybody can watch it.
Yeah.
But that particular country, you can get for really, really good amounts. The ticket was like £25 or something. It was super cheap. It was a nice 2-day event. So you go for both days. The first day didn't have the showcase. That was more FanFest. The second day was the showcase and everything like that. And they do these in revolving countries. And I think if E3 wanted to survive as it was and wanted to make something of itself, that is the route that they need to take.
Yeah.
Don't stick to LA. it's super expensive. It's completely out of the way, not even just for Europeans,
even for the Americans themselves. Yeah.
It's thousands of miles away. It costs thousands of pounds to go there and stay there and even live there for the week whilst the shows are on. It's not financially for the fans. It's not worth it. Financially, for us, it was originally a bucket list thing, but now it's a case of, well, why would we spend that money on that? There's nothing there now.
Yeah.
So if you're doing that as a roundhouse thing where you create this kind of fan event, you turn it E3 into a more fan event that changes its location.
Yeah.
And 1 year it's in LA, the next year it's the opposite side of America, so the northern side get it as opposed to the southeast, etc.
Yeah.
And then you change it so then it's in kind of the Americas, so then it's in Mexico another year, and then you change it so it's over in kind of Norway or something like that, and those angles. Then you to Amsterdam or
whatever,
the Netherlands, Utrecht, or you change it so there's a hub every other year, and that creates a larger national fan base, like worldwide fan base, as it were. That's going to turn up to this event.
Yeah. I do agree. That's and I think we see that with many publishers. Ubisoft has done their forward events in different locations every year. EA also does do that, and like you said, Los Angeles simply is super expensive for E3. There are people we've spoken to, creators from the US, that said, hey, it would actually be cheaper for me to fly from the US to Germany to Gamescom than to go to LA. So, man, we have to convince your likes of Booms, Mr. Boomstick, and Randall Thorne, and so to come over to Gamescom. We know just Gordon's gonna be there, but
Kia Sante's debating coming over.
Yeah.
Gaz
you know
is
what?
debating
I'm
coming over.
gonna write Asante after the show in the DMs. We have to bring him back on this show anyway as a guest. It's been way too long since he has been on the World of Gaming, so we have to bring him back and then we convince him live on the air, man. We're gonna do that.
Yeah. And Gaz said he's thinking about going over now, and I said, oh well, come over. He said, yeah, if Asante and Dutch and Boxy are going to be there, that's a potential because it's cheaper, far cheaper, especially from London. He can just get a quick flight over, done.
Exactly.
It's 100.
You're flying from London, right?
Yeah.
It's
there's literally no direct to
Cologne. Yeah. I'm going by train, man. I'm coming by train. It's a 4-hour train ride. So
actually, I was going to say, does the Eurostar doesn't go through Germany? Does it?
No,
it does. I know it goes to Amsterdam.
We have the ICE. That's like our version of that. But
there would be the possibilities to get the train through. The Eurostar through, and then get a train through from Amsterdam. But that's more hassle. I could just get the train, the quick train down to London and fly over. Much quicker.
Yeah, you do that, man, and then absolutely, and then we're gonna have a blast. Glad we already booked our hotel, and Gamescom, man. We have to pay attention. The tickets are gonna go live, I think, in April or so. So yeah, it's sad about E3, but I think that these shows that are more focused around the community aspect and actually going there to play games and not just get the game announcements, which was usually what E3 was. You got the game announcements at E3, and then later during the year, during the likes of Gamescom and PAX, you got to play the games for the first time. That's how these shows worked. So yeah, gonna be an awesome year, man. Not just because of all the game releases, but actually going to Gamescom again, meeting up with all the people. We were gonna have a lot of fun there. But man, we are already 2.5 hours into the show. You're muted, man. You're muted.
Breaking news: E3 has been cancelled.
Really? You gotta be kidding me.
No, IGN's just posted. I'm going to read it verbatim here as well, by the way. So live on the air here. Almost a year after announcing its return, the Entertainment Software Association announced today to its members that this year's Electronic Entertainment Expo has been cancelled. IGN can confirm. The event was supposed to be held from June 13th through June 16th in Los Angeles Convention Center. Would have been the first in-person E3 since 2019. Two sources have confirmed to IGN that the organization announced the cancellation via an email sent out to its members today. The email said that while E3 remains a beloved event and brand, that the 2023 version simply did not garner the sustained interest necessary to execute in a way that would showcase the size, strength, and impact of our industry. The ESA concludes in the email by reiterating its commitment to advocacy work. E3's return for this year was announced last June, alongside confirmation of E3 2022 had been cancelled. The news comes after multiple big names of the industry, from Xbox, Nintendo, PlayStation, and recently Ubisoft, announced it would not be attending in any capacity. IGN has reached out to ESA and ReedPop for comment.
Jeez, that's breaking news, man. We just said it. It's unlikely. Kind of sad to hear, but
not unexpected.
Not unexpected. Yeah.
The literal only reason I was even debating going this year was to meet awesome content creators that I've worked with for the last 2 years. That's becoming a far stretch now. They The only reason I would go over there now would be for PAX. It's the only method, really. And again, that's miles away. But that would be the only method, and the only way we could meet up in the US with all of these awesome US kind of content creators we know and are friends with. I can't see. It depends how big the Iron Lords get, etc. But it would be hard to see whether or not they would fly over to Germany for Gamescom, and so it's a damn shame. It's a damn shame.
It is a damn shame. It is a tradition in the gaming industry. E3. I think we started with that. It is E3 is the gamers' Christmas, and to actually see it cancelled. The event that unites the entire industry, like you said, that brings together people, it brings together developers, it brings together creators. It's sad, man. It's a sad thing. It's a sad thing, not unexpected, but yeah. That's the nail in the coffin, like Skyel said, and we will see if we will get a substitute event that will kind of be able to gather the people. I think the Jeff Keighley thing is not gonna be an in-person event. It's just gonna be the Keighley show, summer showcase. It will probably grow a little bit, but in terms of in-person events, either it's gonna be one of the PAX or it's gonna be Gamescom, Tokyo Game Show. Probably not. I don't know, man. I don't know. But yeah, sad to hear.
It is, but you could see it coming a mile off.
Yeah, of course.
It's so hard to have a major gaming show when none of the big three platforms that literally all of these games go on to are going to the like all of the games you're showing at this conference go on to the three major platforms, whether it's Nintendo, Sony, or Xbox, and none of them three, the big three, aren't showing up. So then why are any of the publishers going to bother going?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And again, I think it's a mixture of a lot of things. It's the divided spotlight you have at a show like that. You don't have the necessity anymore to have like your likes of IGN and GameSpot and whatnot united at one place to get the hands-on previews. You can easily do that digitally. Just send, if you only want Gamescom and whatnot, Gamescom, your GameSpot and IGNs to report on certain things, you can easily do that. But social media has changed a lot, of course. You have smaller creators such as ourselves, that want to talk and report about games. And honestly, that's why I have moved away from the bigger sites like an IGN years ago. Because I just feel like smaller creators can be more genuine at times. You always have some idiots everywhere, in every industry, but of course, we are not making a living off of this. We just speak from our heart, and a lot of others do that as well. So I have moved completely away from the bigger outlets and go to the smaller ones that I have a connection with, with creators that I trust, where I know they have similar tastes like myself, or whatnot. And a lot of people here in probably in our community did the same thing. So is E3 really relevant for those people anymore? So you still like your in-person events, but you have others like the PAX and Gamescom. So. And I love Raid in the chat. He says Mr. Keighley's face is now like smiling like a little devil.
I was just mentioning Jeff Keighley. So he's posted a picture of himself as 15 at his first event in 1995. 4 years ago, I realized that E3 wasn't evolving as it needed to compete in a global digital world. So we started building what's next. See you at Summer Game Fest on June 8th.
There you go. He knows that his show is now gonna grow.
Yep.
Well,
But he's also moved with where the market's going. He's creating a digital event, and this is something that E3 could not physically do themselves.
Yes.
That's something that
You
Keighley
wonder
can
why?
do because he's...
Yeah. But
Go on.
yeah, you wonder why they were not able to do that. Probably simply mismanagement from the ESA. They could have done what Keighley did 3 years ago, but now he has established his summer games show as the event, and kudos to him. You guys know my opinion about this guy, but we gotta give him credit for when credit is due, and he put together a digital show which the biggest gaming organization, the ESA, could not. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's but he's also got the ability to bring all of the shows under a
Under
brand
one umbrella. Yeah.
that doesn't cost them anything.
Yes.
Costs them literally zero. If anything, it's costing him to get these brands to allow them to stream things and have certain things and special unveilings and the work he puts into it in order to get reveals of certain games. So it's all an outlay that he has to pay, not the brands. The brands are giving him permission to use this stuff. So it's completely the opposite way to E3's doing it. E3 are like, you have to pay us for the privilege of coming here. Jeff's doing the complete opposite. It's like, we'll create this digital showcase event where you control your showcases, but we'll just put them under the umbrella of, okay, it's Summer Game Fest, so I'll cover all of your showcases, and you can still do them all individually under your own roof, and you still host them yourselves, and they're still your showcases.
Yeah.
But I can put them within my time frame. So, okay, all of you are going to do events between this date and this date. So Summer Game Fest is going to run from this date to this date, and we'll cover everybody.
Yeah.
It's essentially what you're doing. And in between that, games that aren't going to be at these events, I'll get special reveals to showcase beforehand or in between.
Yeah, so, true that.
He's just evolving with the ever digital world. That's what it is. And
he's moving on. I don't like some of his statements. I think he's become kind of a diva. And of course, there's a certain bias, which is obvious. But the industry, he achieved to become like a key leader figure of the gaming industry. He hosts now Gamescom Opening Night Live, the Game Awards, and the Summer Show Fest with Game Fest show. And with that, I think the 3 biggest shows of the year, right? With E3 being gone. At least outside, of course, of the individual like Xbox shows or PlayStation shows. But even those are under, like you said, under the umbrella of Keighley. So that's pretty impressive, man. That's pretty impressive. But yeah. So I lost my train of thought. Anyway, man, we've talked about this for quite a bit now. I think that it's time to move on to the last part of our show, which is, of course, the community questions.
Ooh, you're so good. Every day I hear the words from you.
All right there. That each and every Wednesday, people can write in questions on YouTube, on Twitter, or in the Discord, or wherever you want. By the way, if anyone wants to join our Discord, hit me up. I will definitely send you guys an invite. But where are my notes? There they are. The first community question comes in from Stuffed Shaw, and he asks, what are your dream jobs? What did you want to be growing up? Are they related to the computer games industry? Would you wanted to become a footballer? No limits, anything goes. He, by the way, always wanted to be an animator or a rally driver.
Nice. No, I wanted to be a pilot, fighter pilot initially. I actually went through all the interview processes with the RAF, went through the medicals, etc. But unfortunately, the level of color blindness that I have prevents me from being a pilot. So that dashed my dreams, which is why I ended up in the Royal Marines instead of as a pilot. So I still ended up in the military, but not as my dream job as being a pilot, which is why I have this huge affinity for flying, but also have this huge affinity for playing games like Flight Sim, because it's the only chance I'm going to physically get outside of doing things like air cadets, where you could, which I did when I was younger, and gliders and single prop engines and things like that. Was the only opportunity I had to fly. So Flight Sim, of course, means that to me, because that was my dream.
That's where the color blindness doesn't matter. Yeah, good.
Yep.
Good shout, man. Good shout. Yeah. So for me, I play the guitar. Yeah, it's my second hobby, and as a kid growing up, I always wanted to become, of course, a rock star. So, but then I played in a band for a while, but nothing remotely successful. And then you just grow up, and then I became an engineer. So.
Vastly different to Rockstar.
Vastly different than Rockstar. You know, our drummer actually pursued his dream of becoming a professional musician. He studied actually music at the University of Berlin. He studied then drums, trombone, and piano, and so he makes a living off of music. He never became the big rock star, but he makes a living off of his hobby. So, anyway, really briefly, he said from Shirky, he asks question again: why no pineapple or tuna on pizza? I don't have anything against tuna on pizza.
Tuna, yeah, I've had tuna on pizza. That's all right.
That's good. Okay. And I also like pineapple, just not on the pizza. Yeah, so I just wanted to clarify that. So, then we have a question, and you know, I was thinking about bringing this question up, because when we talk about pineapple on pizza, of course, one name pops into my head. Actually, two names pop into my head. That's, of course, Desi, who is writing a pineapple on pizza campaign, a Boxenberger campaign, and everyone thinks I'm related to this, but I'm not. Shout out to Desi, I love the guy. But Hertog Win, of course, comes in. So, since he really likes pineapple on pizza, I wasn't sure if I should bring up his community question, but I thought I did. He says, the rumor is that Skies of Arcadia is being remastered by Sega. How real is it, and do you guys want to have that?
So, I knew you'd bring it up because we intentionally avoided speaking about it yesterday.
No, yesterday everyone wanted to go and play games, so that was the reason.
There was one more topic. I was like, no, there wasn't. There isn't any more topics. Nope, that's no, we're not bringing it. For the sake of Vin's sanity, I hope it is real. For Vin's benefit, the leaker that has spoke about it is pretty credible. He's predicted, or at least leaked, a number of accurate things, a significant number of accurate things.
He's been a reliable source in the past, indeed.
Yeah. So, in terms of whether or not there's a possibility, it's got a greater possibility of being true than your standard rumor. So I would say it's probably maybe a 65-70% chance at this point that it's true. There's always things that can happen. But a HD remaster is not outside the realms of a possibility, to be honest.
Yeah.
If it was a remake, I would say it's doubtful. But with it being a remaster, that's something they can do pretty easily. Very low cost. Put it out the door. Get a decent return. So yeah, I would say it's a good possibility.
Yeah, I would love that. Honestly, Skies of Arcadia, probably the best Dreamcast game there is. I would actually take also a full-on remake. Love that. And like you said, the source has been right before, so yeah. Let's hope that there is something to this. Dave Ramos writes in an interesting question. You gotta listen here carefully. If we were to bucket games into categories, games where 1. Review codes were given last minute or after launch, 2. Review codes were never provided, and 3. Review codes provided well in advance, would there be a correlation between troubled games and buckets 1 and 2? Want me to repeat the question?
There is definitely even we see that even now, there is definitely a correlation between review codes going out very late. And to speak on this, Jez Corden received his review copy of The Last of Us Part 1 remake on PC today.
There you go. That was actually the reason why Dave sent in the question. I've seen this on Twitter. He just forwarded this to me and asked to put it in the community questions. And I thought it was a great thing. I think there is something to it. If you're confident as a developer or publisher, you're gonna provide the codes up front, because you want people to really play the game, not just play like the first chapter and then release the review because everyone wants to be the first one to post it. So of course I would say not having confidence in your game rarely is a good sign, because let's be real here, developers probably know the state their game is in. If you release a buggy game, you know about that. Come on. You can't foresee every bug. There's literally no way when you put your game into the hands of millions that there is not this occasional bug that appears that you have you just have not detected in the play testing. But in general, like CD Projekt Red knew exactly about the state of Cyberpunk. Yeah. And they definitely knew about the state they launch The Last of Us in. That's just not that's just impossible to not know. So yeah, I think it is related. When you are confident in your game, you're gonna send out the review codes up front, because you want people to play the game, finish the game, experience the entire thing, not just chapter 1. So what do you think?
Ooh, yes.
Yeah, you made.
Yeah, it's definitely 100% correlated. Absolutely. It's all about confidence. If you're not confident enough to send out the review code early in advance, then yes, there's definitely a correlation in its output and its performance. And we've seen the confidence that even the guys at Arcane have had with Redfall. We're talking months in advance. They've got people going to view and play the game.
Yeah,
they're obviously very
that shows
confident
you
in
confidence.
what the game has.
That shows you confidence, man. Exactly.
This is an issue with a number of games that have released recently where there's been no review, literally next to no or zero reviews for the game. And it's outside of Hi-Fi Rush, which dropped out the blue, which is entirely different because that was a surprise drop and it was intentional. Outside of that, When you have a game that everybody knows is coming out, and all the reviewers, the big sites, are saying, like, listen, we still haven't received anything for this game. Like, this isn't looking good. They say it for a reason, because they know it breeds confidence. If you're confident enough in your game, then you're going to give that to reviewers to review it prior to its release.
Yeah.
And if you don't, in which case, The Last of Us Part 1, where they're getting review codes the day of its release and the day after its release, there's obviously zero confidence in its performance. Zero. And it correlates to what's happening. And it's not to say that it isn't a good game, but if it's performing terribly, then you're wanting to kind of... It's kind of a manipulation of sales.
Yeah.
You want to get the sales in before the bad news hits.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more, man. I could not agree more. See Money, Mario Kart Madman writes in here on YouTube, and he asks, what is the first thing you want to happen after Xbox acquires ABK? I want the community to talk about something else.
Something else, yeah. Like, none of this actually bothers me. Like, Modern Warfare 2 was the first Call of Duty I got in 5 years. So
Yeah.
Call of Duty isn't really a thing that I'm too bothered about either. Like, I'll play it every now and again, but it's not something I would usually rush out and buy. This, like I say, the only reason I got this one is because I knew quite a significant amount of people would be playing it. I'd probably enjoy it. It's kind of the older gameplay and things like that. I played the beta, so I knew what to expect. So,
Yeah.
and the campaign was fun, so I enjoyed that. But previous iterations did nothing for me. Overall, I would say the only thing that we can do kind of immediately, I would hope for immediately for everybody, would be getting some of these other games onto Game Pass, like your Crash Bandicoot 4 and your Crash Team Racing and all that stuff. I'd love to be able, because I know a lot of people still haven't got Crash Team Racing, and I know that would be an awesome, fun game to be playing with friends. And again, Crash Trilogy and the Spyro Trilogy and Tony Hawk's 1 and 2 remaster. Yeah. All of those things I would love to see in Game Pass kind of just after the announcement. I think they would be the best things, mainly for the community. I already own all of them because, again, I love Crash Bandicoot franchise. I loved Spyro, so that when that was announced, and especially how good that looks and how good it plays, I had to get
Tony
that.
Hawk remake was absolutely fantastic.
Fantastic, yeah. Crash Team Racing is like literally if Mario Kart was on any other system, it would sell bucket loads. Crash Team Racing is the closest you're going to get on any system outside of Nintendo that is a Mario Kart. It is pretty much outside of that. It's got this weird little hub world that you can drive around in between races and practice your racing and things like that. And to play a Mario Kart-esque game that's as fun, if not maybe more fun, get Crash Team Racing. It's a hell of a lot of fun, but put those in Game Pass. If it goes through, you get all these things. I'm not bothered about COD and things like that. Like, that's the least of me concerns. I'm more bothered about these other IPs that they've got floating about where people might not have played them, and I think it's going to revitalize the Crash and Spyro and things like that by going into these services.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, so I'm a similar boat. Want the legacy titles to come in. You already mentioned some. For me personally, I would love that Diablo drops in as soon as they finish the deal. I not just because I want to save money. I would buy it. Or I have pre-ordered it anyway. I'm gonna buy it, but I want the community to be big in Diablo. That's the thing. You know, I know money is tight. And there are a lot of people probably on the fence about Diablo. Haven't played Diablo before. I mean, Diablo 3 is now 13 years old. Yeah, so we gotta say that. So there's a lot of new gamers to the franchise. And if you're new and don't know how great Diablo is, you're probably not gonna invest in it. Yeah. And I want that to happen. I want to be to have a ginormous a Diablo community that love and play the game, and for that reason alone, I want it to come to Game Pass, because I want to play it with everyone, man. So yeah, that's what I would want. Now, last question of the day. Drone Dude FPV comes in and says, PlayStation fans always say exclusive matter and money hitting is just business. But is Phil Spencer really to blame not being aggressive with Microsoft money to secure exclusives? He could easily outbid Sony's offer. Or is there more at play? I do think exclusives did not drive console sales but created a brand image. Xbox as a platform seems to work on a bigger picture than console exclusives with ID at Xbox, securing future IPs and developers. Dutch, you want to go first?
I'll let you go first on this one.
Okay. I mean, we already covered some aspects of that earlier in the show. When it comes to certain IPs, they want to control them. And it's not that Microsoft does not do exclusives. I mean, look at what we had this year already. We had Atomic Heart, Stalker 2 is coming, things like that. So it's not that they do not want to do that. They just don't do it as aggressively. They don't pay for exclusive content like your likes of Hogwarts Legacy or Call of Duty things. And of course, you could argue that they are not getting the bigger ones. The last really big exclusive was, I think, Tomb Raider. If I'm not forgetting one or two games, but yeah, it's not that they don't do exclusives. On the other hand, they have a lot of noticeable ID at Xbox exclusives. That's where they really invest in, and that you know that even better than me, being a massive indie guy, of course. So, what do you think? I mean, ID at Xbox has almost become their exclusive thing. I know there are indies on PlayStation, but we've heard it so many times from indie developers that they do not perform well on PlayStation because they are not putting the indie games in the store front and center. They only put the big games in there and things like that. And so for indie games, the ID at Xbox program has been the way to go for the most part, at least. And I think that's also something like an exclusive, man. And then, of course, there's Game Pass, which is an exclusive in itself. So, what do you think?
Yeah, it's just a Microsoft shift of priorities. They don't want to overpay for a timed exclusivity agreement on a AAA title that holds no benefit to themselves. It literally holds zero benefit to themselves, other than some marketing rights. That's all the exclusivity really is at the end of the day. And yes, Sony have exclusivity agreements on the likes of, and again, we've mentioned them historically. It's Final Fantasy consistently, and that's to try and, for them, it's one of the bigger ones left to sell in the likes of Japan and China, etc., who love the Japanese games, which is why they focus on so much on getting the exclusivity for it to kind of keep that market kind of entertained there. We're one of the biggest Japanese publishers, but it's just a priority shift for Microsoft. Like they will get these tie-ins for games. They will get create their own games with the likes, as we've mentioned, Indiana Jones, etc. But these aren't, like, Indiana Jones happens to kind of almost fall in line with the release of a new Indiana Jones film, but it also isn't an IP that is what you would class as current pop culture. It's something that we grew up with. something we know. It's not something that the kids know. So it's an entirely different risk factor. It's something that you can bring back essentially, as opposed to something that needs to live up expectations because it has garnered a massive following through comics, etc. For instance, so
Absolutely.
Microsoft are more focused on supporting indie publishers. The benefit to that is not only are you assisting in creating the game, but you're making sure that these publishers have the funding to continue with their development. You're essentially giving them a platform to develop it on. You're giving them all the tools and support in order to do that. So all it does by working with these ID at Xbox teams is give them the essential platform to release the game on Xbox, generate their money, grow themselves a bit more, and then they're able to go out into the world and create either maybe if it goes really well, then a follow-up game for Xbox, and maybe work with them further and get a little bit closer and create that partnership. But even outside of that, it would at least give them the funding and the ability to go out and make it on multiple platforms. For indie developers specifically, it's a choice. It's not so much a choice, it's a requirement to do it sometimes one platform at a time, because you can't afford to develop for all of them. You don't have the time and the money to be able to continue to develop for a very long period of time, because the outlay to pay for staff, to pay for the hardware or the electricity or the bills, generic stuff, means you need to get the game out sooner rather than later, which means you have to choose a platform that you want to release it on.
Yeah.
And you can't have all of them. You can't, because you haven't got the time to do it, to start making money, which is something that big AAAs don't have to worry about, because they've got historic IPs that they can rely on that are going to continue to generate some money, or they've got big publishers that are funding them, or they've got, again, AAA companies that work for Microsoft or Sony and Nintendo are all funded by companies above them, so they don't have to worry about that. Indies don't have that that luxury. So Microsoft working with ID with the ID Xbox program to help indie companies and get these timed exclusive games for a year, 2 years, whatever it is only benefiting the creator, because it means that they're going to be able to stand on their 2 feet, bring that game to a wider audience later down the line because of the funding and support that they've had from Microsoft. And then potentially, if they do really well, then could end up becoming part of the Xbox family permanently, or could get a bigger publishing deal from somebody else because the game's done well enough.
Yeah, with the follow-up games then or whatnot.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's their thing, and they want to kind of grow the portfolio of what Xbox does in a different manner. They don't want to waste money on exclusivities and marketing deals. They'd rather spend that in-house or at indie studios now, and it makes more sense for the longevity, to be honest. And for those who love games, the most creative games on the market are definitely the indies, without a shadow of a doubt. So I understand the methods behind the madness. I know people want superhero games, etc., but the financial return for that is not as high as people think. It's nowhere near as high as people think. Even GTA is, it makes a lot of money, but when you see how much money they've got to pay out for everything in order to have that game running, whether it be the server costs, whether it be the cost of having all those songs on the radio all the time, like all of that stuff is literally costing them.
It's still printing money, though. It's still printing money.
There's other methods, but they spend a significant amount of money to keep that game up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why Microsoft also look at it from a financial aspect and say, is it worth paying for the exclusivity of this game? Is it worth getting one of these IPs? Because it's gonna the financial return for this isn't as great as we'd like, because the IP holder is going to want a large section of that money. Yeah. So we'd only get maybe a 30% return, and the IP holder gets 70%. And it sounds like a lot, but when you've done the development, it's not much.
Yeah, I agree. I fully agree, man. Yeah. Honestly, there's not really much I can add to that. I think you pretty much covered everything. So I want to take that opportunity to wrap the show up, man. It's been a blast as always, and I want to say a big thank you, not just to you, of course, but also to everyone who showed up here live today, to everyone who listens after the fact on YouTube, of course, or on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you're listening. We truly do appreciate you taking the time. It was, again, that more than 3-hour show, but time just flies if we have awesome discussions with the community. So thank you, Dutch, for taking also the time to come here today. So let people know what you're working on, man.
Yeah, so as we mentioned earlier there, it's I am working on the Community Indie Showcase 2023,
Absolutely.
of course, the first one that is in April. And of course, that is on the 22nd of April. It goes live at 6 p.m. GMT, that's 1 p.m. Eastern or 10 a.m. Pacific. So yes, of course, we've got a lot of awesome things going on there. For those who want to set the reminder for that, I'm just going to put the link in the chat now. So if you want to set your reminders now,
I will
there is the
also
link.
put that link in the show note. I should have done that up front. I will do that after the show, though.
It's okay.
So
It is okay. But yes, so there's the link in the chat now. So of course you can set your reminders for that now. To be honest, I could have done that a while ago, to be honest, but I've just put that up. So it is available to set for your reminders now, so you can go on there, and of course we'll see you at the showcase. So I'm going to continue to be working hard on that to right up until pretty much the day before it goes live. That'll be rendered out and ready to rock and roll the day before. That's how fine cutting it is, because we don't know what we're going to manage to squeeze in right at the bitter end, which is why I can't render things out until the very last minute. So
I would do it 2 days before, because the rendering time alone is like 10 hours or so of this thing.
Well, that's why it's 6 p.m.
If you have to do it again, I would do it 2 days before. I would set the deadline 2 days before.
Yeah, it's mainly just to make sure that if people can squeeze out something last minute, then we'll get that last minute drop in. And it's again, we had something last year. There's a good chance we'll have a last minute drop in this year. So, but yes, it's awesome. So again, those who want to bookmark it, it's in the chat now. But outside that, of course, you can find me here every Thursday with, of course, my awesome the host Boxenberger. Every Wednesday evening on the midweek mix-up, and followed by the primetime gaming with Boom. Every second Sunday with the General C, of course, for the weekend edition, and every Tuesday for the Save Tuesdays playcast with our host Xbox Mick. So busy.
Indeed you are, man. Indeed you are. And if that was a little too fast for you guys, the link for Wandering Duchess channels is, of course, in the description. So, yeah, man, you are busy, but I'm glad you take the time to join us here every week. It's an awesome thing we have going here, and it's not just because of you, but also because of the amazing community. So a big thank you to all the supporters here, not just the ones that tuned in, but also, of course, for this big thank you for the super chats and channel members. We truly do appreciate it. We will be back next week, and probably with a guest, and we definitely will have an awesome show next week. And other than that, I see you guys very soon, and don't forget to game on.